Synth Network.
Hello there, welcome to the ProSynth Network live show episode, whatever it might be, I don't know, it says on the screen underneath there, so why do you need me to tell you? Welcome to yet another live show. We've got some great guests for you as per usual. Thanks to everyone that's joined us in the chat room, loads of familiar faces, one or two new ones. Welcome to you. Hope you enjoy, and if you haven't already, you know the score, do the usual stuff, hit that subscribe button, and also give us a like as well. It all helps. And the more we get, the more exposure we get, the more the algorithms work in our favour. And yeah, it's all good. So thanks ever so much for joining. Let's see who we've got to talk to. Let's go to one of our regulars. This is Cryss over in California. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm trying out my look as a Bond villain here.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Indeed. That's coming out, isn't it, on Blu-ray, I think. No, sorry, digital on Monday or something. Can't wait. I'm going to watch it again. Loved it. Brilliant film. Anyway, thank you for joining us as always. Ben, by the way, isn't with us this week. So we have a stand-in. And we've also got our regular monthly appearance from Mr. Kent Spong. Before we meet Kent, you met him last week. He was a superb guest, that good that we invited him back for a second consecutive run. I don't think we've ever done that before. We say a big hello over in Colorado to Dr. Mike Metlay. Welcome, sir.
Hello, the nice people in the computer.
How are you?
I am doing okay, Rob. How is your own self?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you very much. Been a busy week, but nice to get to this point where I can just kick back and talk nerdy with all my friends.
Oh, nerdy, dirty, and flirty.
Indeed.
We wouldn't have you any other way. No, it's been a good week.
Good.
Sales of the book have been good.
Excellent.
And Kim's already got me working on our next project, and I've been doing some stuff for other clients. Not enough music, though. I need to do more music. I actually played live last night for about 2 hours.
Oh, cool.
On the radio station, and that was fun, but it was mostly weird stuff because I like weird. Anyway.
Well, yes, absolutely. Well, great to have you back, and welcome. And let's go across back to the UK. Mr. Kent Spong, how are you, sir?
I am absolutely wonderful, thank you.
It's like whenever I see you, it's like I only spoke to you probably a few hours ago or something. Although I haven't spoken to you today, I don't think. Yeah, it's like we're always you and I are always talking, taking up my time. But how are things? You got any nice new things in your room there that you'd like to show us?
There's one or two things, maybe.
Okay, you're going to save that for later, are you?
Yeah, look, yeah. Come on, let's
tease.
Let's get into the flow first.
Let's get into the flow. Oh, okay. You're not a cheap date, are you?
Oh no. You got to work for it, boy.
Are you keeping busy?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm building, aren't I? I'm doing.
Yes.
Finally doing the anaglyph voice cards.
Oh.
Whoa!
It's finally building them.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
I was able to price them up. This will make you laugh. They work out roughly about £560 a voice.
Oh, and how many voices does the anaglyph have?
16.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, though? Kent, that's not outrageous. Mm-hmm. It really isn't. I'm sorry. I would much rather pay 8,000 quid for a synthesizer from you than pay approximately the same amount for a 16-voice Moog 1 that won't work.
That's a fair point.
It's just the voice cards are going to cost 8,000. Then you've got to add the other 20, 30 grand.
The other stuff. You just stick the voice cards in your forehead.
Legs.
You know. And I know they're eventually going to get the
Pass switch.
Moog one working nicely, but it's just, I'd rather give my money to a friend. That's how it always works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not me.
Anyway.
I'd rather give my money to Moog.
I'd like to have some money
Cryss.
to give to Moog. Yeah. Anyway, listen, guys, welcome
Controversial.
one and all. Here we all are, and we've got some interesting things to discuss because this week has been absolutely dire in terms of new things to talk about. There's very little. In fact, we've had to bring a few over from last week that we didn't get onto, and I'm glad that we didn't because it would have been really bereft of news topics. I guess is everybody waiting for Black Friday? Because that's obviously next week.
Last week was a pretty news-heavy week for being away from a trade show. I mean,
This is true. I don't know whether there's I can't remember if there's ever like a seasonal Christmas lull, but
well, we tend to see it when I was at the magazine. We would tend to see it right after. And this is a little late. We would tend to see it right after the fall trade shows like AES.
Yeah.
And then everything would go very, very quiet before NAMM because they were saving up everything. But of course, there's no NAMM show until next June. So
that's
who
right.
knows?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we have a few things that we can talk about and get somehow kind of excited. I mean, it's not really that much, to be honest. However, what we've done is Chris, Ben, and I often sort of sit and talk during the day, and we say, well, how about if we are short of something, maybe we can talk about this, and we make these notes and we put them down, and thankfully we do that because we're going to pull a couple of those kind of discussion topics into the show at some point, maybe in the next sort of half hour, 45 minutes. We're going to be talking about well, I'm not going to tell you. We'll lump that on you as a surprise. But what I would like you to do is join in the chat as we get talking through that. Please do join in, and we'll bring your discussion points in, and we'll talk about those. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, just speaking of the chat, like it seems like there was maybe some problems with people seeing my comments or something.
Okay.
Maybe the mods can work out whatever that is. And I've only got one hand today, so hello everybody in the chat. If you missed my comments, hello.
There we go. So if you do want to kind of grab our attention, then do use our handles. So obviously Chris is at Synthient Sound. Mike, what are you? Are you just Dr. Mike Metlay in there?
Yeah, Dr. Mike Metlay.
Yeah.
I've never figured out a way to give myself a nice, cute little name, so I just deal with it.
And I'm just at ProSynth Network. You can put that because that's what will show up here. But if you want to grab our attention, that's probably the easiest way to do it. But do remember that we can't always scroll too far back in the comments. So if we do miss you, repeat the question, and hopefully we'll get asked, and we'll get that into the show. So let's kick off with what little news that we do have. And these were a couple of things that came out about a week or so ago from our friends at IK Multimedia. So they've done a bunch of kind of updates and releases to their T-Racks and their Total Studio and their Total Max products. Can't even say the word. This is the first one. This is what's this? A Total Studio 3.5 Max all-round music creation expanded. This Total Studio Max has had another 19 products added, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in there. You get 143 individual products that you can buy individually from IK, but as a bundle you get them all together, and there's everything in there from instruments to effects, mastering tools, all sorts of stuff. And there are different versions. There's Total Studio 3 SE, which is a slightly cut down version, or Total Studio 3.5 Max, which has 143 products, 497 FX units, 63 plug-in instruments, and over 470 gigabytes of sound. And it's currently on sale. Normally $999.99. It's now $599.99. Lots of goodies in there. Now I have Total Studio Max. I haven't upgraded to this one just yet, but I do find that it is an incredibly
it's a great
extensive.
Value. It's a great value, and these I think it was Native Instruments many years ago that started this whole idea of providing everything at once in one big bundle. And, the fact that you have these companies which are now understanding that there are some people who just want to pay full pop. They just want everything. They want to have it there. They don't want to have to come at it from from a piecemeal standpoint, because by the time you've bought a third of the stuff, you've already spent more. It puts out all the power in their hands. It gets the word out. It's a really good thing. And the thing that bums me out is that they don't include a pair of iLoud monitors in the package. If they're going to offer everything, throw in a guitar interface, throw in some iOS stuff, throw in a couple sets of monitors. I mean, come on, guys.
Indeed. Let me just bring this screen up here. So what is included for your currently $599? So obviously you get Sample Tank 4 Max, which is their big sample-based instrument. I guess you could say, kind of akin to other big sample instruments like Contact or whatever. You get the Sampletron 2 plugin, which I must say is quite nice. You get the Syntronics Deluxe virtual synthesizers, many emulations of various synthesizers across the ages. This one is a real doozy. The Hammond B3X, which is approved by Hammond themselves, is extremely good. Miroslav Philharmonic 2, Modo Bass, which I think is very, very good. Modo Drum is included as well. Not as good, I don't think, as, say, something like Superior Drummer, but the physical modeling aspect allows for a lot of variation in there. And then huge amounts. You get Amplitude 5 Max, which Cryss is a big fan of. You get all sorts of stuff in there, including the Brian May, Joe Satriani, Dimebag Darrell stuff, and the Leslie stuff. You get the T-Rax 5 Max, which I think is loved by everyone that's used it. It's such a powerful set of tools.
Really, really good set of mastering tools there.
Arc System 3, which is good. I still haven't properly done my Arc over here. Mixbox, which we raved about when it came out, which is this kind of plug-in environment. So you just drop in these little effects into a rack. Very, very useful for some quick stuff. The Lurzen mastering console is in there as well. It's a huge amount of stuff.
Gavin Lurston is an amazing guy, by the way. I remember chatting with him when he first was starting to do this stuff for IK, and he was really excited about how what the prospects were. And it looks like the promise has been made and exceeded by what's actually out there. It's an extraordinary little piece of software.
Yeah, it's really good stuff in there. So, I mean, even if there's stuff in there you don't like, there's plenty of stuff that you should do to kind of do that. Cryss, I guess you're kind of going to be looking at this from an Amplitude perspective mostly, but as an all-round set of or suite of tools, you like this?
Yeah, absolutely. They're a great company, and I'd say their plugins comprise some of my most used ones. Of course, Amplitude is in there, but also I use a lot of T-Rax on my stuff. And then the thing that I got recently in the group buy, well, I got a lot of things in the group buy, but the one that really was kind of a shocker as to how good it was their Hammond. It sounds fantastic. And I've got a lot of other organ stuff on there. I didn't need it, and it was kind of something that I just grabbed because I could get it, but I was really surprised about how good it sounds. But yeah, they're the staples of my recording world. Yeah.
I mean, I remember somebody saying to me, if you get any suite of like effects plugins, get the T-Rax stuff. It's just fantastic, and it really is. It's just like you just go to that folder and you boom, that'll do.
It's an amazing value for the stuff you get. It really is.
Yeah. Kent, have you purchased this ever? Have you used this ever? Does this excite you?
Well, I must admit, the one thing that I thought when I did see it was it would be very interesting to have something where you've got that many instruments in one place together. A bit like Contact is. Yeah. But this, so this is an alternative to that, so that. Yeah, it's what's the word? It's kind of because it's all localized because you've got it all together. I mean, my computer's got instruments all over it on different drives and blah 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 and that kind of, and I lose track of what I've got. I mean, to have something all in one bundle like that, so you always know what you've got, I like that. I like the idea of it. But I didn't buy it because I'm broke.
Well, that's as good an excuse as you need. The one thing to be wary of that I found when I first bought this is that no matter how good your internet connection is, you are in for a long haul to get all of this onto your computer. But they now have the IK product manager, which I don't think they had when I first got T-Rax and Total Max and all that. So you had to go into the website, and that was really painful. But at least now with the product manager, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It manages it and staggers your downloads. It doesn't, bulk them or buffer them all up and then have it crash. So it will only download one or two at a time, but it does make it a little easier, a little easier to swallow.
I have to be really careful when I talk about things like load times, because the city where I live in, for quite a while, was the best connected city in the United States. It was bizarre. For whatever reason, about 10 years ago, our city government put in a complete fiber optic backbone. And they suddenly decided, let's just offer it to people who live here. And so I've had gigabit for like almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And so half a terabyte of data is like, I'll get it started. I'll go have dinner. It'll be done by the time I get back.
Yeah.
But, but for folks who are using cable or whatever, it's nice to have something that manages the process. I have to say, though, I haven't tried Sampletron 2 yet, and I was a massive fan of the first one. I really, really enjoyed it. Mellotrons are my thing. I love Mellotrons, and Sampletron was a big part of my live rig for a long time, and I'd like to take a look at 2 at some point just to sort of see, because
I think if you like 1, you'll like 2.
Yeah, well, Kurtzner has this incredible collection of these instruments. I mean, so it's sort of a fight between him and Dave Spears as to who can get more cool stuff into their Mellotron software.
Yeah. I think the one thing I really like about the Mellotron or Sampletron 2 is the fact that they've bundled a whole bunch of effects in there as well. So it's whereas with Mtron, which I still think is one of the best out there, you do have to kind of use other things to get weird and wonderful stuff. Whereas this pretty much
it has everything integrated.
Yeah.
It's a nice product, and and the thing I'm wondering about is, and you guys can correct me on this because I honestly don't know. Is Syntronic modeling or is it sample based? I thought it was
sample based.
Yeah,
it's all sample based.
It would actually be a hybrid because the oscillators are sample based, but then it uses modeled filters.
Yeah. Whereas instruments like Modo Drum and Modo Bass are
modeled.
Almost totally models with a little bit. I think they use like samples for attack, the attack portions and stuff. But
and a quick thank you to David Ramirez, who made a nice donation. Thank you so much.
There you go. Yes, thank you, David. Thank you for that. Much better. I didn't do that in the beginning of the show. I didn't say that if you want to donate to us, you can by using the super stickers and the super chat, as David has shown just there. And of course, you can also donate via our PayPal page, and the link is down below in the description there. So if you want to do that, thank you very much. It keeps us on air.
Welcome to ProSynth Network. We don't love you. We just want your money.
This is true. No.
So how come you've had a gigabit for 10 years?
Well, okay, 7, 8.
Do cows text a lot or something? Why do you get?
Well, I was talking to you about this earlier, Kent. This city is one of the most development oriented in the world. They're always looking ahead to try to figure out a way that they can increase real estate values by making quality of life better. And at some point, the city government just said, we're going to put in a damn 10 gig fiber backbone, and they put it in, and the only reason we didn't have it even earlier than that was the cable companies and the telephone companies sued in court to keep the city government from offering this stuff to its citizens. They said, well, it's an unfair competition, and the judge threw it out, but it took a couple of years, and now we've had gig internet forever, and it's just but yeah, it makes downloading things really easy.
Well, I'll be thinking of you the next time I have to download Native Instruments Complete 13.
I will send you chocolate or something.
Yeah, I'll need provisions.
Yes, indeed. So anyway, IK Multimedia Total Studio 3.5 Max.
Thank you, Teosophy.
Oh yes, indeed. There's another one. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, so that's going to be that's available now at $599 is the standard reduced price. But if you have bought IK stuff in the past, as you probably already know, if you sign into your account, you will get a special price based on what you have bought. So do go and check that one out. Thank you. Yeah, Adam, well done, sir. Thank you very much. Little thank you for your relentless work and entertainment. You know nothing. This is all thrown together at the last minute. No work goes into this. Nothing at all. No, that's a lie.
Closer to the truth than we'd like, but hey.
Probably, yeah. But anyway, thank you. It's much appreciated. And we're getting you on the show next year. I say that because we're almost at the end of that. So we are fully booked, but we are getting Adam on the show because we want to talk to him about his synthesizers. Now then, Total Studio 3.5 Max is not the only thing that IK Multimedia have launched in the last few days. The other one was Total 6 Max. That does start to get a little confusing.
It's not 6, Rob. It's VI.
No, it's 6.
It's VI, Virtual Instruments.
Is it?
Yes.
Why did I think? Oh, that's because I'm getting. This proves my point. Okay, this proves my point.
Heart.
This proves number one. I'm Italian. I see Roman numerals. It's like being back home. Number two.
Ave.
Number two. I was about to say it gets confusing with their naming brands because you have Total Studio Max, you have this Total VI Max, as we now call it. We have T-Rax 5, and I just kind of thinking T-Rax 5, oh, this one must be 6, and that's why I thought it was 6. I stand completely and utterly corrected.
You know,
Total VI Max.
It's Ave.
Got to be careful.
Yeah, it's VI, Virtual Instruments.
So there you go. It makes sense because Total VI Max is a massive collection of virtual instruments, which includes this long list here. So we have pretty much everything we had in the Total Studio 3.5 Max, except there's no effects in there. So you've got all of those applications: Hammond, Miroslav, Modo Drum, Modo Bass, Sample Tank, Sampletron, Syntronics Deluxe. You have all of these libraries. So you have Neil Peart drums, Hugh Padgham drums. There's an Alan Parsons Imperial Grand in there. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And then all these Syntronic synthesizers. So if you were just after the instruments and not the effects, this is the one for you. Normally $699, gone down to $399.99.
That's a deal.
And if you if you already own IK stuff, that'll be even cheaper still. So log into your account and find out there. No point covering that because we kind of spoke about all the things that were in that in the previous one, and I just want to skip past this, to save my embarrassment. However, there was yet another. Kent, stop it! I can't help it. There was something else. Now, this again will be part, I believe, of Total Studio 3.5 Max. And this is one that you can actually buy separately, and we thought we'd just bring this out and have a chat about it, because this is... Oh, it does say, there you go, it says on the screen, now included in Total Studio 3.5 Max. Let's get rid of that. This is the famed Studio Reverb. Now, this is from the Muscle Shoals studio, and it kind of follows in the footsteps of their Is it Sunset Sound was the last one, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this kind of follows in the footsteps there when they've gone in and they've taken impulse responses from this amazing studio in Alabama, which has got, as you can see on the screen here, a rich and illustrious history of recording from people like Wilson Pickett, Lou Rawls, Little Richard, Aretha Franklin, and many, many more besides. So I actually, again, haven't had a chance to play with and listen to this. Have you, Chris?
I haven't. I don't have it. But I got to say that Sunset Sound was great. And between Sunset Sound and Muscle Shoals, talk about two places in the U.S. which are cultural icons where so many important things happen between those two studios. So it's cool that they're doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else got any thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm following up on what Chris said. Muscle Shoals is famous. I mean, they even talk about it in more than one hit song. And Sunset Sound is renowned as a creator of some, this was a studio where the engineers used to build the stuff that they used. And you can actually find, reproductions of some of the Sunset Sound designs that are being sold by other firms, in hardware recreations in 500 series and that sort of thing. So the fact that they're really, sort of grabbing the essence of this is a beautiful thing. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'm fascinated by these new approaches to reverb, and so I'd be really curious to hear how it worked on some of my mixes.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Kent?
No, I'm reverbed out. No, honestly, I'm reverbed out. And I don't think an 80 would sound very good going through it anyway. So
No, it's probably not. So.
No.
I guess
Well,
it's probably
not my
more
bag.
suited to. It's probably more suited to the things that we're going through it, like acoustic instruments and electric guitars and that kind of thing, I suppose.
yeah.
But even so,
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, speaking of studio gear, up in the chat, we had our friend Ziad is in the chat right now, who does Pulsar modular plugins.
oh yes, which
And so up there, you said in lieu of a donation, he's donating a copy of P42 Climax to us, which of course Rob, Ben, and I already are users, and that finds its way onto every one of my projects. But also a little bit of news about it is that it's just got a huge update to 2.0. So
Indeed, yeah.
really cool. I've got some stuff on my channel, Synthient Sound, about it. Go check out Pulsar Modular, and some really cool features. It already sounded great. The sound engine is amazing on it, and like I said, I use it on a lot of my tracks now.
Yeah.
But it's added a lot of really cool features to it. So we just want to give a shout out to Ziad on that.
Indeed, I actually downloaded that. I did a Ben. I've downloaded it. I've not. Well, actually, no. I downloaded it, installed it. I just haven't tried it yet. So it's been an absolutely manic week here. So I will try and get around to that at some point. But no doubt it will improve on what was already a very good plugin there. Right, so that was T-Rex. No, sorry, it wasn't T-Rex. That was the famed Studio Reverb, which is also part of the something or other bundle. I can't
But
remember.
wait, there's much more. How much would you pay now?
Well, quite, yes. You can get that for $129.99 at the moment. But again, if you already own stuff, you might get a little bit more of a discount. But it's a lovely little reverb. It looks amazing. Sounds, certainly in the demo, sounds very, very good. Big thanks to Icing the Body Electric. Not entirely sure what that is.
Don't you
care
say,
to try-
lads? Sure, mate.
No, it's what I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I'm having a thick moment. Go on yourself. Is that just go on yourself? Is that just like
that's Norwegian, isn't it?
go on yourself, lads?
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah.
Something
Yeah,
like that.
basically.
That'll
And,
do.
at our age, going on yourself is not, beyond the realm of
Not
possibility.
unheard of, is it? Yeah.
It's about the only choice we have. Anyway, so I hope I haven't offended any of our Scottish neighbours there with that awful Scottish impression. Yeah, it is Scottish. There we go. Thank you very much.
Racist Scottish accent, yeah.
Don't.
It was crap. Crap.
Right. So that's all
Mike
the
Myers.
iPay.
Mike
Yeah.
Myers
Yes.
tells a story of being driven through a town in Scotland when he was filming something, and his limo was being chased by all the kids in the village who were running after him, yelling, "Mr. Myers, your Scots accent is crap."
Yeah, his Scottish accent is more like Willie from The Simpsons, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
Groundskeeper Willie,
basically,
which is not very great. But
which
there
is
you
not great at all.
Parody, isn't it? It's
go. Well,
parody.
yes, there is that. Yeah. But he's a funny guy, so he can make up for it.
His Austin Powers Scottish impersonation, but the one that's really hilarious is an earlier movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer, where
Yeah.
he plays his own father. That one is great.
Because wasn't his father?
Pants new.
His father was Scottish, wasn't he? He emigrated
Yeah.
to Canada. Yeah,
Something like that, yeah.
there. Because I remember him turning up to Colbert. He was dressed up in an old British Army uniform, which was rather amusing. Anyway, we're veering off the point because of the lack of news. Let's bring in something else. This should get a few arguments going, heated debates. So Roland Cloud have been a little bit busy of late, and they've introduced two new things. The first one that we're going to cover is kind of an interesting thing, and I'm slightly annoyed. I can't remember if Ben has got a Jupiter X. I don't think he has.
No, I don't think so.
No, but this is Roland Cloud Connect, and now you can buy this little USB dongle that plugs into the back of your Jupiter X or XM. Does it go into anything else? I wasn't sure. Does this go in the System 8 at all?
No.
Or is this no? So this is just the X and the XM then. Okay, so this is a little USB dongle that then allows you to connect to their service via your phone or your iPad, and you can then move things around from the Roland Cloud into your Jupiter XM without having to plug into a computer, and I guess that's the thing. And it costs about £99, and you get a Pro membership thrown in, so that's one tier down from the top membership. I guess you can top that up if you want to, or I don't know if you can buy the adapter without the membership. It doesn't make any mention of that. But of course, what it means is that you can now install all of the compatible libraries and instruments into your Jupiter X or Jupiter XM through this tiny little USB dongle. Is this something that will make Roland Cloud a lot more appealing to those people with these keyboards? Because for me, it makes absolutely no jot of difference whatsoever. Is this good for Roland Cloud to be able to ease these instruments in via a USB dongle?
Well, I'll let somebody else talk first, I think.
Let's go to Kent first.
It's
What do you
Roland
think?
Cloud. It's Roland Cloud, yeah?
Yep.
Anything I say beyond this point wouldn't be printable.
Okay. Chris.
Sorry. Please move on.
What do
I'm
you
sure
think?
this will go really, really well.
So there we have our balanced opinion.
So let me tell you, like I was with customer support. Although, see, Roland is still at the point where they're trying to fix it, and I've been back and forth with them. Whereas SoftTube contacted them because their installer was having problems, and they basically said, well, maybe check back in a few months and it might be better. It's like, wow.
Doesn't instill a lot of confidence, does it?
No. At least they know it. But
Yeah, well, at least they're being honest, I suppose. That's one
Yeah.
thing. So according to Roland, what you get as standard with the Roland Cloud Connect is 1 year of Cloud Pro membership for both hardware and software content. You get the WC1 adapter, which plugs into the back of your instrument and connects to Roland Cloud, a specific Roland Cloud app on your mobile device. Unlimited use of all model expansions, wave expansions, and sound packs for software and hardware. Preview and play sounds instantly over your wireless network. Install everything with a single tap in the mobile app. Over 30,000 sounds available across all Pro membership instruments. Over 9,000 sounds for Jupiter X and XM with deep search function and user ratings. Available for both Apple and Android. So I guess if you are a Jupiter X or an XM user, and if there's anybody in the chat room that is one, please do pipe up. We won't ridicule you too much, but pipe up and let us know what you think. I mean, I guess in a way this is it's handy, but it's all internet dependent. So again, if you're in a gig and you want to swap things in and out, it's probably not ideal.
Well, but you could say the same. You could say the same thing for any of the Roland Cloud stuff. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to be doing stuff like this in a gig. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who walks into a gig thinking that they're going to be able to use the Wi-Fi to do anything important deserves what they get.
This is true.
Because there's a funny story there, but I'll save it. The thing is, Roland is really doing its best to develop this ecosystem of, subscription cloud content. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But the fact is, they're producing an enormous amount of really interesting, compelling content. And all this thing really is doing is giving another outlet for people to be able to get stuff into the Jupiter XM, Jupiter X environment, which is what they're pushing hard right now, without having to screw around with a laptop. And for some
Yeah.
people, that's going to be enough. It makes things a little more convenient. And if you are at home, then you can rely on somebody not trying to stream your concert from their phone on the same wireless network, and you can make this stuff happen. I mean, like it or not, a lot of our future going forward is going to be wireless. Not for audio yet, please God, but for data transfer, absolutely. And we're seeing, as Bluetooth gets better, we're seeing more and more with MIDI.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just got to kind of grit your teeth and say, yeah, this is evolution, and you use it if you like it, and if you don't use it, you buy hardware. And that's just, they're trying to, I think, not just to ride the wave, but in a sense to define it, because there are probably a lot of competitors looking at this going, damn, a wireless dongle into the back of a synthesizer and you can plug your subscription directly into it. That's actually kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, thing is, I'm struggling to, because I don't have the X or the XM. I simply see absolutely no benefit at all. If you're in the studio, you're in your own environment as opposed to a gig, chances are your Jupiter is already connected to your computer, probably via USB, and therefore your computer will have the Roland Cloud on it, and you can zip stuff backwards and forwards. And isn't there? I'm just trying. Let me have a this. I'm going to open Roland Cloud live on air because a lot of people are saying, and I agree, I've had no issues really, nothing major with Roland Cloud. One or two instances where it keeps asking me to log in, but nothing absolutely horrifying. So yeah, there's a Jupiter X editor that comes as part of Roland Cloud that you can install. So if you're in that studio environment and you've got your Jupiter there and it's probably connected via USB to your laptop or to your desktop somehow already, why would you need this? What is the benefit of this?
Well, I think it was like what Mike had said, that so for me, my studio experience centers around a computer. My live experience has none of that. I'm still relying on vacuum tubes for my live rig. But
yeah, baby,
that's
burning
that's
paper.
my that's my experience and that's my workflow. But I mean, when we look at synth videos, if you just Google whatever synth stuff on YouTube, most of the people are not using computers. It's a lot of DAW-less jammers. And so like as Mike was saying, I think that's the appeal to it, that you can have this device and you can interact and change things back and forth without having to go and grab your computer or your laptop to do it. So, and
it just it kind of smacked of a solution to a problem that doesn't really exist.
Well, yeah, definitely not
To me.
for us. I mean, even if we had a Jupiter X, it would be something that I wouldn't be interested in because, again, it's just not going to, why would I need an extra device? I would just hook a cable right in. But, I mean, you can see how, there are so many other types of workflows why people would like this. And I do think that it is a clever thing that they're striving for. I said I don't like the sound of their ABM and Xenology stuff. I think it sounds very flat. But the idea of what they're doing, I think, is going to lead to something better. Like when they're able to develop this system for the Zen stuff, where you can take your stuff on your computer and on your synth and everything else, and move it around and create patches on one device and put them on the other. But then when they can combine it with the sound quality of the ACB stuff, their Legendary Series stuff, then it's going to be something that's really powerful. And right now we're going through the growing pains of the technology of it because, I mean, and typically I think synthesis in particular, less so than guitar players for sure, have been willing to engage the future and technology and push things forwards. But I think it's always done, yeah, up to a point, and it's always done in a wise way that, like, you realize at home and in your studio you can mess around with stuff and have stuff go wrong, and you're okay. But when you head out on stage, you got to go with what's reliable.
Yeah, true. But there you go. Thanks to Jason for your £5 contribution to Chris's vacuum tube fund. Much appreciated. So there you go. That's Roland Cloud Connect. They're deliberately choosing names that are making me trip up on my tongue today. So Roland Cloud Connect.
You know why?
Why?
Because they watch this and it makes them smile.
I hope they do. I hope they do. But there was one other thing from Roland, and this does come via the cloud, I guess. Let me just bring this up on the screen. So this is an addition actually for the Jupiter X and the Jupiter XM. And again, because we don't have...
Does anybody notice a theme here?
Yeah, quite.
This is their next platform. This is in 2003 it was the V-Synth. In 1996 it was the JP8000. When they find a technological platform that works, go with it. So I think for the next year or two we're going to be seeing a whole ton of stuff for the X and the XM. That's just going to be how it is.
And this is like one of the first big ones. This is Vocal Designer Model Expansion. This is nothing. So some of the other model expansions you can have on Roland Cloud as model expansions for the Xenology plugin, but this, I believe, is only for the Jupiter X and XM. And this allows you to basically stick a microphone in the back of your Jupiter and do some vocally kind of stuff. Shall we have a listen? I think we ought to.
The way that it's meant to be, the way it's designed, let's make this especially by design,
Your voice is the most powerful tool you have. Your voice, it can change the world.
I have to say, sorry, I'm going to break that there. I am a bit of a sucker for anything that sounds like vocoded stuff, or should I say, probably more like a talk box kind of thing. Huge Roger Troutman fan here, and that has a lot of that feel to it. And give me some of that with some R&B, and I'm just anybody's. I'm yours for the night. I like what that sounds like. I really, really do. He's got a good choice of microphone as well. But yeah, anybody got any extreme thoughts on this? Shall we let's go for some brief commentary from Kent Spong. Regardless of being Roland Cloud, what do you think of this as a tool?
I loved that.
Yeah?
Actually, yeah. I'd like to get Daniel Miller into that. Then I wouldn't have to repair that bloody vocoder of his. No, but it sounds beautiful. It sounds really, really nice.
Thanks, Dr. Synth, and it's good to see you again.
But yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's it.
Fiona's chili's burning the inside of my mouth at the moment.
Okay. Well, is my portion coming later on?
Yeah. Oh, Christ. I spilled some on my iPad, and I think it's literally melted.
It's melted the screen.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let your mouth recover whilst...
That's her revenge.
Montezuma's revenge. There you go.
I think one of her
Burns
hidden
twice,
chili.
baby.
Yeah.
Going in and going out.
Yes, quite. Manny Fernandez, I haven't spoken to you for a little while. We need to catch up, but thank you. You haven't been around for a bit. We did notice your lack of presence, and thank you ever so much for your donation. That is incredibly kind of you, and we must catch up soon. Get you back on the show at some point. Let us know when you're free. So, yeah, Jupiter XXM vocal designer Christopher. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to sound pretty clear. I really haven't done much with vocoding. I mean, I've checked it out on some of the synthesizers that I have. But I guess I probably came a little more from the world of TalkBox, the Peter Frampton type stuff, or Jeff Beck.
Yeah, but do you feel like I do?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Great album, that isn't it? Frampton Live Again. It's brilliant. It's classic. Got to be in everyone's collection. But yeah, I mean, I'm like I say, I've always loved Troutman and that whole kind of funky talk box thing, and anything that he's applied that to. I mean, a huge Scritti Politti fan here, and he did a couple of tracks with them back in '87. That still, just are absolutely brought. I mean, they're great songs, but when he comes in with his harmonized stuff, it's just fantastic. It really is. I like this a lot, though. I think this is a really nice thing. How
do you guys feel about? So Jean Seta says old school vocoders and talk boxes are a little better. I was thinking that very thought. Like I kind of like the late '70s kind of sound with the talk boxes and the vocoders, because they got a lot of character, even though they're not the clearest things to listen to.
Well, I'm going to take a shot here, having played festivals in Finland. I'm thinking it's Janeseta, but I
It
could
is.
be wrong.
No, you're absolutely right, because I got it right when I guessed it. And so it is-
But I, this is one of those things where, is vintage better? And that's a whole. We could take 2 hours on that. What I'm hearing when I look at this is a really fairly clever way of taking audio input, whether it's from a microphone or whatever, and shaping it with the tools that are built into the synth. Everybody talks about vocoders as being only usable with vocals, but as has been pointed out by a few people, the vocoder, you can use anything as a carrier and you can use anything as a modulator.
Yep.
So instead of using voice, you could use a drum loop, and you could actually use the sound of a rhythm to shape the tone of a sustained chord. There are all kinds of really, really cool things that you can do with these vocoder style carrier modulator processing things. And the fact that they're offering that whole toolbox here to people with the Jupiter X and XM, I think is pretty cool. As for what's better, I mean, I've been using vocoders since 1979. Point is that there are lots of different ways to do this stuff, and I happen to really like talk boxes. Richard Gibbs from Oingo Boingo used a talk box rather than a vocoder because he liked the tone better. I don't think it's necessarily better than what you can do with this stuff. It's not a matter of clarity, it's a matter of character. And there are going to be people who like talk boxes, and there are going to be people who like vocoders. There was the Digitech Talker that came and went fairly quickly, but there are some people who really loved that. But I think a lot of what we're hearing also isn't just vocoding, it's the fact that you've also got this pitch correction being forced in there.
Yeah.
Vocoding was the first, it was the precursor to auto-tune, really, because, you would get the inflection, but then you'd have the actual tonality of the carrier, so you didn't have to worry about things wobbling all over the place.
Yeah.
So that's my take. New tools are good. I'm a big believer in new tools are good.
Yeah.
Well, and for those that don't, go for the Roland stuff, what you were just talking about with drums, like, so I've done that. There's a couple plugins like Isotope has Vocal Synth 2, and then the one that kind of surprises me, that one actually sounds a little better when you're doing vocals, but the one that sounds better for instruments is actually Waves Ovox. That works really well, and so like if you put some drums through that, and you end up with all sorts of crazy and really cool stuff with it.
Yeah, and I guess the advantage, if you're going to use this for talkbox-like facilities, the advantage of this is you don't get spittle flying everywhere, but from having that plastic tube shoved in your gob and having to try and do
Well,
that.
and getting zapped because you're making a ground loop connection with your face.
That's it.
If you ever watch Frampton playing live, you can hear him interspersing curses because he keeps getting zapped, and it hurts.
Oh dear, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a cool thing. It's free if you've already got the X or the XM Jupiter synthesizer. You just download that on Roland Cloud and pump it into your machine, and away you go. Really nice stuff, and it just gives me one excuse. I need to. The first thing that came into my mind when I saw that clip was it reminded me of my good friend Don Lewis, and this demonstration video that he did of the Roland VP 550, which was kind of a combination of vocoding and this kind of voice manipulation thing. And this is just stunning. Have a listen to this. It's just brilliant.
Swing low, swing low.
And this is all Don and the keyboard.
Coming for to carry me home.
Swing low.
Sweet chariot, coming for
And I'm going to stop it there because I will watch all 4 parts of that video.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
Come on.
the hairs are literally
just-
standing up.
He's amazing and
Love
such a
that man.
wonderful, such a wonderful.
We're going to
guy.
try and get him on next year.
Oh, please do,
Fingers
please,
crossed.
please, and let me co-host
play
on
that.
that one. Oh
yeah,
my
well,
God,
we got to sort of coincide that. I know that he's been busy and we need to get him on, but we will.
really do, and I'll see if I can reach out to him because I talk with him fairly frequently. No, he's amazing, and you know how old he was when he did that thing in 2008? He was almost 70.
Yeah.
You
The
can't
guy's-
believe it from looking at the guy. He's 80 years old, and he's got more energy than I had when I was 40.
Yeah.
And he's such an incredibly generous soul.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing. And it would be great to have him on the show. He's a blast. He's such
Yeah,
a blast.
absolutely. And if you haven't seen it yet, do go out and look for the film, The Ballad of Don Lewis, which he made with his friend Ned a while back. And that's I interviewed him for that for Sound on Sound, and it's just full of joy. An absolutely brilliant film. And lots of DX7s in there as well. Got to get that in. Right.
Everybody drink.
Hey, well, I haven't said the other word yet. We'll keep that for later.
What, you mean witty?
I didn't say
Oops.
that.
What, Widdy?
I didn't say that. Yeah, go on, everyone, take a drink. Right, let's do one more piece of news, and then that will bring us to the top of the hour, which will then give us about an hour or so to go through our discussion topics. We might do one, we might do both. It all depends how into it we get. But the final piece of news, again, something we should have spoken about last week, but we just ran right out of time. And this is generating a lot of buzz online. This is from Eventide and the SplitEQ. This is kind of like their witchcraft to Isotope's RX9 tools, but this does something that the RX9 can't even do, and it really does split everything. Let's see if we can find. I thought the video was there, but it's not. Here we go. Oh no, I don't want to play him. No, I don't like him. Sorry. Where is the demo video? Here we go. That's a masterclass. Let's do this audio demo. This will do it. Let's see. Let's get the. There we go. Right. Have a look at this,
With
kids.
SplitEQ, Eventide's structural split technology splits the incoming audio into transient and tonal signals based on the algorithm that we choose down here, as well as these individual parameters to tweak if necessary. The idea is you can then EQ and pan the transient and tonal components separately. The interface is really intuitive. Green controls apply to the transient signal, blue to the tonal signal, and when it's a light gray, it'll control both together. So, for example, I can drag the blue handle to control the tonal element and booster cut it, and the transient separately. I can option click to snap them back, and if I use shift, I can adjust the width or Q. And when I drag them both together, it's a light gray color and acts as a traditional EQ band. Now we have the typical.
It wasn't kind of the demonstration that I was hoping for there. I was hoping for some audio clips. I really should have prepared that one a little better. But we can see what
forgive
it
you.
does. Yeah, it splits the transients and the tones, and you can equalize them individually, and it really does sound pretty special as to what it can do. And if you are into surgically messing around with your sound using an EQ, then you can't get much more surgical than this, I don't think. It's currently on offer, I think, at about $99, which I think is pretty reasonable for something that's this powerful. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's really cool. I ended up picking it up.
Okay, cool.
What time I have had, there's been two plugins. So 3Body Tech's Kirchhoff EQ and then the Eventide SplitEQ I've been trying to check out as much as I can. But the Eventide one is really interesting. There's some things that you can do with it that are quite unusual. This is not just another Fab Filter. What's their EQ one? Pro EQ3 or whatever.
Yeah.
This does this really interesting thing. So to give an example of how one might use this, I was trying it out on acoustic guitar. And so for me, when I have a mix of music and I put acoustic guitar into it, I'm not wanting the acoustic guitar to sit in the center like it's a Bob Dylan song or something, I want it to be a little more of a percussive, like almost like a pitched percussive element in it. So you hear a lot of the attack, but I don't want it taking over my track with the body. So the thing that you can do is you can, with the EQ, remove some of those low mids out and kind of gently carve it away so your vocals fit in there. And yet with the transient portion of it, you can pop that pick attack out so you hear just that percussive element of it fits right in with like the hi-hats and makes it pop, but without it taking up too much of the track.
Don't know what I'm doing there. My cameras are all over the place.
I'm being cut off. That was enough.
I'm so sorry. I'm still getting used to these hotkeys. Oh dear. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just threw up the graphic there that kind of shows the kind of detail you can get into with picking out the various parts you need to do on both those levels or not maybe, and you just get this very kind of complex and powerful tool there. Kent, he looks like he's got a mouthful of chili. We'll come back to him. Mike, your thoughts on SplitEQ?
The whole idea of separating transient and tonal stuff has been around for a very long time. Hermann Gier at SPL created the Transient Designer, which was a 2-channel, 4-channel hardware box that could do this to any input, and it would allow you to actually shape the envelope characteristics of a drum or whatever. So in hardware, it's been possible for a long time, and there are many software versions now and adaptations of this basic idea, including SPL, by the way, still makes the original hardware, and they also have some really wonderful plug-in equivalents. But this idea of then using that separation to do other processing and software, this is not the first time Eventide has done this, I don't think. There's been at least one other plugin where they have, said, we're gonna let you pull out your transients and work with them separately, and that's a really powerful thing for things like what Cryss was describing, because I mean this goes all the way back to the 1980s and LA synthesis on the D50. The idea is that you've got these. You've got the transient character of any acoustic instrument, which carries almost all of the information, and the sustained waveform. Neumann actually for a while put out this test CD that you could get where they would play like 8 or 9 sustained notes from various orchestral instruments and cut off the attack and release, so you only heard the sustain, and you were supposed to guess which one, and it ain't easy. And so this idea of being able to focus on transients and either pull them up or pull them out, is a really kind of an interesting thing. And I think it's going to be really useful not only for the surgical stuff, for getting in and really pulling out problems in difficult tracks, but I think for sound design, the possibility is just incredible. You run this, you run a synthesizer through this thing and you automate it. And you get this, just if your computer can keep up to automating all of the widths and the gain boost and moving frequencies around, I mean, basically, you could put a square wave into this thing and basically build a synthesizer like nothing anybody had ever heard before.
Yeah, very true.
I tried it with.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I tried it with drums, and you're talking about some of the unusual things that you can do, because I mean you can take it and fix like a bad drum track where you have too much of the room in it, and you can use the Transient Designer to bring out, take out some of that room and just have the transient there. But I was using it on some drums where because it has panning and some spatial stuff, components to this, you can separate things. So like say on a snare drum, you can have the
of course
transient of the snare out here, the element on the other side. Yeah. And it sounds really interesting and unique. So there's so many, like I said, there's so many ways that with sound design that you can go with this. I'm really excited to see what it's capable of. And in fact, as I was doing a little more work and research on it, I found another product too that we didn't cover on the show, but it looks like it would also be just kind of a really interesting piece for your studio, which was Waves Factory Quantum. And if you can imagine doing this kind of transient stuff, but with effects also.
Right. Yeah.
Should we tell him that his whole description of what he did with the snare drum got garbled?
I think we should.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah, we lost you there for like 8 seconds. You know, there's this great thing on the snare.
So what I was describing is I took a snare, and when you hear the transient hit, you can have it panned over like on one side.
Right.
And then when the tonal element comes in just behind it, it's panned in a different place of the audio field. So it has... especially in the course of a mix, you're like, what the heck was that? It sounds very interesting, and you're not sure quite what's going on when you hear it all together, but it sounds quite fascinating.
Yeah, I've heard people using this to create kind of faux stereo effects from the mono signals, but it sounds really cool. I don't know, I might pick that up. We'll have to see. Kent,
and it's Eventide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Kent?
When Cryss was describing it, in the first time he was talking about it, I understood 2 words, which was guitar and body, and the rest of it. Sorry, mixing for me is no. I'm sorry. If you've heard any of my tracks, you'll know that mixing for me is like move a fader a little bit, and that's about it. I go, well, that sounds about right. Cool, done, print.
Done. Don't mess with it.
So, I mean, when I talk to Richard Hilton on Skype, and he'll be talking about all these different things and stuff like that, and I'm going, no, don't understand a single word. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. Don't get
EQ.
It.
EQ is something that I've not really gotten into, but the more I do get into it, the more I think, oh, I kind of like what I can do with that. So
yeah, but it does look a bit like a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
And then
definitely.
you can EQ something one way, and half the planet are going, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're doing, and the other half goes, he's brilliant. So
I tell you what I like about this, and it's what I like about other EQs that do this in a very graphical way, that I can see what's going on as well as hear what's going on. Whereas if you just present me with a bank of faders or rotaries, I'm just twiddling them until I get something that I think might sound better.
Yeah.
But if I can see that by moving this, I can see the bass stuff increasing and the mids going down, or I'm a visual guy. But
you don't listen with your eyes, buddy.
I know.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I like the visual experience of it, but again, that's the argument for like rotary EQ knobs, is to force you to think about it.
I mean, I listen to. I won't just do it and think, well, I want more bass, and I can see where I'm going to do that. If it doesn't sound right, it doesn't sound right.
Right.
But at least I understand what's going on, and I think for somebody like me who's pretty much very basic knowledge of this stuff, it helps me get something that maybe somebody could just go boom, boom, boom on a set of rotaries on a channel strip or something.
Well, my downfall's always be that, yes, you turn up the bass to get more bass, turn up the middle, and so forth and so forth. I get it, understand it, but I'm listening to it and I'm going, is that right?
Well, what is
That's
right?
the problem. I never know when. Does that sound cool or not? 3 weeks later, when you're listening to the track on SoundCloud, you go, oh God, what was I thinking? That's awful, and I can't hear that piano at all, and those strings are far too sharp, But at the time,
indeed, it's a constant process, a constant battle. But anyway, stuff like this from Eventide will help. I guess help people do things that they could not do before. So it's available now.
To your point about the visual nature of it, they did a really good job designing the GUI on it.
Yes.
Because it was, this is something that is probably not your run-of-the-mill type of, EQ plugin. Yet the way that it's laid out, I mean, it's so simple to use it. It's very intuitive. Like, you're not left kind of scratching around, like, how do I do this thing with it? It's like it's all laid out very obviously.
It coming from an RX9 or just RX. I've been using it since 7, I think. This felt very familiar. looking. I'm not saying it's the same, but it felt familiar, so I was kind of comfortable. I understand what's going on there and what that's doing. So, yeah, interesting stuff. SplitEQ from Eventide available now. Normally 179. It's on offer at 99 for a limited period only. Right, let's do something we don't normally do. But before we do, I just want, because I have the platform and I have the control, I can do this, you see, and you can all just say what you want. I can mute you. I have power. What I want to do is I just want to give this a bit of a plug. It's something that I'm going to be involved with next Saturday at the National Science and Media Museum, which is part of the Science Museum group based out of London. But this is in Bradford, in West Yorkshire. I don't know my Yorkshires that well, apart from the puddings. This is an event that's happening on the 27th of November, and this specifically is the part that I'm involved in, which runs from about 4:30 p.m. Through to 5:30. I'm going to be taking, crazy I know, but I'm going to be taking a complete Series 3 Fairlight CMI in the back of a van to Bradford next Saturday to demonstrate for the lovely attendees. And if you want to come along, it's free of charge. It's not just me. There's Dr. Manuela Blackburn from the Open University. There's Paul Harkins from Edinburgh Napier University. We've got Robin Scott, no less, of M fame, and so on and so forth. And you can come along at this. I really didn't like this bit here in the middle where it says the UK's leading Fairlight expert. And
why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you not like that?
Because I don't think I am, and imposter syndrome and that kind of stuff.
Oh, please.
So
no, dude, go for it.
No, I don't like it. I'm not saying that. Just I really don't like it. It's made me feel a bit uncomfortable. But I'm going to be there with hopefully a fully working Fairlight CMI, and also I just want to say that for the rest of the day, because it's a whole day's worth of events, and virtually all of them are completely free of charge for you to get in, but you might have to buy a ticket just to guarantee entry. The whole day is called Soundcheck Remix, and our part is just one part of many events that are going on across the day. So there's Sonic Adventures in audio, experiments in sound. They've got a big exhibition of synthesizers for you to go and have a look around with. There's demonstrations of the oh bloody hell, my brain today has just gone. What's the thing where you wave your hands? Theremin, that's the one. Demonstrations of the theremin. Well, the thing that you wave your hands. Yeah, that. Yeah. So Sarah Anglis is doing a thing on Daphne Oram, and then at the end of the day, and you do have to buy a ticket for this. Sisters with Transistors is showing.
Oh, amazing movie! Amazing movie.
With a panel discussion with, I believe, some of the team behind the film as well. So I just wanted to get that in. If you're anywhere near Bradford, this coming Saturday the 27th, not tomorrow, following Saturday, come and give us a shout. And if you are there and you do, come and say hi. The Fairlight will be on stage for about an hour or so, and then we'll just load it back up and take it home again. But yeah, if you want to come and see one of those things working and see what I pull my hair out over constantly, then please do come along, and we'll be happy to see you. Anyway, right, just get that out of the way. Let's remove that. Now, what we don't normally do on the show, but we're going to do today because there's not a lot of news, is we're going to have a topic of discussion. We're all going to kind of weigh in on it with our opinions. And we have a couple, and I'm going to ask our guests in the room here. Oh, by the way, before we do this, Synth Addict, thank you very much indeed. Here's a little travel money. Thank you very much indeed. If you, I mean, I know that you're on the other side of the world, kind of, but if you can ever get across, please do. Yeah. Right, so two topics that we had for discussion. I'm going to ask each one of you which one you'd like to kick off with first, bearing in mind time and stuff. So,
we have a piper down.
Which, because we have these two topics. One is about using a computer. How do you see a computer as an instrument? What are the pros and cons of software and composing? Or get rid of vintage gear, go with emulations, replacing expensive, rare and vintage gear with accurate software, hardware emulations, and the pros and the cons of such a thing.
I could talk for 2 hours on either one, so everybody else gets a vote first.
Okay. Chris, would you prefer any of those? Would our audience prefer any of those?
Yeah, either one for me. Kent, what do you think?
I think our audience would probably not like us to talk about computers.
Mm-hmm. Should we go with the emulation, the vintage? Okay, we'll do that then. Okay, so that's good because I hadn't prepared the Hans Zimmer clip that we were going to use for the other one, so it gives me a chance to do that if we do run out of time. So the premise is that for discussion, bin vintage and go emulation, replacing expensive rare vintage gear, and therefore making people's like Kent redundant.
I think you wouldn't mind the rest.
Yeah, this is
actually.
true. With accurate software, hardware emulations, is this the way to go? So I'll kind of kick things off here. When it comes to vintage gear, it is generally nowadays quite expensive, sometimes stupidly so. It, as Kent will attest, and myself to a lesser degree, it's very temperamental, very difficult to fix, sometimes impossible to fix. And therefore, is it prudent nowadays to say, look, let's forget dreaming of owning a CS80 or a Memory Moog or a Poly Moog or whatever vintage instrument takes your fancy, and why not just say, let's just go with the hardware or the software emulations. We know they're not maybe 100% accurate, but we know that no two CS80s will sound exactly the same. No two Memory Moogs will sound exactly the same. So what are the benefits? Should we keep these things, keep people like Kent going to keep the machines going, or what? Who wants to wade in first on this one? Anyone? Go on, Mike. I can see you chomping at the bit. Go for it.
No, I was happy to wait. Okay. No, seriously, folks. I'm big on context. I'm big on application specific stuff. So let me handle this from two directions. First of all, left brain. I was at Super Booth about 5 years ago with my dear friend Paul Nagel, who I know most of you know, and Paul and I were playing with the new emulation. Well, actually, it was a hardware recreation of a very famous, expensive synthesizer, and you all can probably guess who made the hardware emulation. But we were playing it, and Paul is somebody who's owned the original. He was first owner, and he's had it for 40 years at that point. And he played around with the imitation, and he just stopped, and he took his headphones off, and he looked at me, and he said, I'd gig with that. Knowing that I don't have to take my vintage machine out of my studio, and I could, for the sake of an audience hearing a good performance, I could gig with that. And I think that's what a lot of people have to sort of stop and think about when you look at this. It's like, would you gig with it? Would you want to take your original hardware? I mean, we talked about it. I don't remember, Rob, if it was you and me and a.
Oh, he's disappeared.
No.
That's a bit odd. He's gone black, all black screen.
Mr. Gigabit has dropped out.
Yeah, you with your fancy internet.
No point in having speed if it's not constant.
Look at that. That's terrible. Okay, well, he's gone. Hopefully we'll come back in very short. No, here he is. Here he is.
No,
there he is.
He's back.
Yeah, that was weird. I have no idea
You and your
what that
fancy
was.
internet, hey?
Yeah.
You talk
It
that
wasn't.
shit
No,
up.
it was. I think it was something in another application. I'm sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. No problem.
But
Carry on.
If you're going to look at this idea of a machine that you want to take out and use, a machine that you want to go out on stage with, that you want to go to a friend's house with. I mean, I don't remember if it was you and me chatting, Rob, or we were talking about Radio Massacre International did an album called Upstairs Downstairs, which was named because they carried a Mellotron up 4 flights of stairs to a venue that was on the 4th floor in a place that didn't have a lift. and it was am I gone again?
No, you're still
No,
here.
you're here.
Okay, sorry, I'm catching the time delay over here on YouTube. Anyway, if you're willing to do that, if you really think there's something there, and this is when the right brain gets involved, if you really think there's something there in the original that an emulation absolutely will not give you, then you're just going to have to acknowledge the fact that you're not going to be happy with anything else. And what that tells me is, A, go for it, haul that Mellotron around, figure out a way to transport that CS80 without it going out of tune. Con a bunch of friends into helping you carry your Hammond. But realize, and I'm sorry, this is me getting snarky here, realize that if you have a bad back, if you have reliability problems, if you come back from the gig and your piece is dead, if you get to the gig and your piece is dead, you have no right to complain.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
Because you bought into this. You break it, you buy it, you buy it, you break it. And so my feeling is absolutely bin vintage if there's a good practical reason not to use it. But if vintage is all that makes you happy, then by God, go and be happy. Just don't try to tell us that somehow it's not the vintage gear's fault when the vintage gear breaks.
Yeah. I think that's something you have to accept as someone like myself who collects, there's nothing behind me that early 90s I think is probably the oldest thing, apart from the Fusion, which was early noughties, but everything else there was like 84 to 89 I think, and various things over there. Some date back to the very early 1980s. And if you buy into this gear without accepting the fact that it will go wrong and you will need to invest some money into it at some point, or bin it and find another version, you are deluding yourself. I was contacted, the names will be removed to protect those involved, but somebody contacted me about buying a Series 3 Fairlight, and they were very, very serious about buying it. And they had a lot of questions. They wanted to know about its reliability. They wanted to know what happened when it went wrong. How would it get fixed? How expensive was it to get fixed? Etc., etc. It was a very detailed conversation. And part of that conversation, I said to this prospective buyer, I said, what exactly are your plans for this? Where are you going to be using this? Are you going to be using this in a studio? Are you going to be using, or is this just like a vanity piece that you just want to have one as part of a collection? Because there are people that do that as well. What are your plans? And he said, well, mostly in the studio, but I do want to go out gigging with it. And to go out gigging with a Fairlight CMI is a huge undertaking. Not only just the fact that it's lots of heavy boxes of equipment, it's lots of heavy boxes of very delicate equipment that doesn't like being moved at all. I mean, literally doesn't like being moved from one side of the room to the other, let alone from one gig to another gig to another gig. And they were adamant that that's what they wanted to do because they wanted to be as authentic as possible. And I said, really, if you want to spend, more than a 5-figure sum on something like this, it was going to let you down. It will let you down. It doesn't matter how well we restore it, it will let you down. And eventually they decided not to go ahead with the purchase. I don't know if that was the reason, if that was the deciding reason. But yeah, it's, if you are, like you said, to speak to your point about gigging it, and you've got to be prepared, both financially and physically, to cart these things around. I went to see Scritti Politti. I've seen them many, many times over the last sort of 15, 20 years. And they did this recreation of the Cupid and Psyche 85 album, which I know intimately. Every instrument, every sound. And I know I'm trying to get him on the show, Rodri Marsden, who is their keyboard player and MD. And he recreated that album, which was heavily studio based. And And as I said, I know what instruments we used on which parts on which songs. And I'm stood there watching him play, and everything sounds as authentic as I was ever expect it to be. But I know that he's got 2 MacBooks there. Everything is in software, whether he's using a Fairlight emulation or whether he's using samples lifted from the multi-tracks. None of the original hardware was being used, and yet it sounded like the record, which is an achievement in itself, because that was a big studio record. So you do not need to have the authentic instruments on stage to recreate that stuff. And it's just so much easier and cheaper to just take a couple of laptops and have, one as your main and one as the redundancy backup. And everything's golden, I guess. Cryss, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I feel like I have a foot in each world of having vintage gear and very modern stuff, and obviously using a DAW and all that. I have synth gear that goes back to 1974, and I have guitar equipment that goes back to 1955. And, as far as my experience, sorry to bring up the stuff that begins with a G over there, but just in general, like my gigging experience, I used a ton of vintage stuff live. Now, as far as stuff that I used, like, it was reliable, and I worked on it myself, and I knew it was reliable, so I didn't worry about it too much, and I know I didn't have any bad experiences because I knew the condition that my gear was in. Now, with a tube amp, that's a lot easier to say, on an old point-to-point wired, vintage vacuum tube amp than it is on, say, a really complex 80s, poly synth. That I wouldn't be as confident in. But a couple of things that I would say about it, like with the old gear, it just costs money or hard work, time and hard work. And so for me, I don't have the money to maintain vintage gear by having somebody else do it, so I have to do it myself. And so those projects can, take a while, and I'm working on my 2600, and that'll take a long time. But other things I can get done really quick, like working on guitar equipment, is pretty quick work for me. And so it's not too bad as far as buying parts and maintaining it, and I don't have to do a lot of work on those. Now, I'm finding more and more, though, that there's a lot of modern gear that I really like, and so I don't feel like I have to have everything vintage. And if I can get the same work done and it sounds good, and oftentimes with much better feature set on something modern, then I'm all for it. And one of the things that I really dislike hearing is kind of there's a snooty attitude amongst musicians that have collected some high-end vintage gear and lord it over other people. And for myself, like, I've had some really amazing gear. I've played all sorts of stuff. And for me, is if somebody can do it with something else, I'm all for that. If, at the time, I get my 2600 working and I'm showing it off and it sounds amazing, and it's God's gift to synthesizers and all that. If somebody, comes up and says, I'm using a Behringer 2600 or the Korg Mini 2600, like, yeah, I'm all for it. Do it. Like, do whatever makes you happy. And there's often the comparison made about, like, the audience won't hear. Well, of course not. They're not going to be able to tell the difference between a plug-in and your vintage, CS80. It's not going to make a difference. But for the musician, it does. And at the end of the day, you're the one that's making the music, and how you hear things is going to affect how inspired you are and how you play. And so that's important, that whatever is the piece of the gear, whether it's something super fancy and cutting edge, or if it's something that's cool and vintage, whatever it is, get the thing that's going to make you happy. And I guess that's, very similar to what Mike's point was about it. Like, do the thing that's going to make good music for you, and don't be down on other people who don't have the same gear or same philosophy about it.
Yeah, because there is this big thing, isn't there, where people have software recreation. Oh, it'll never sound like the real thing, and no, wrong. It does. In a mix, you're never going to tell. Again, I hark back to my Fairlight stuff when people say, "Oh, I'd love to have a Fairlight." Well, would you? Would you really love to have it? What do you really want from a Fairlight? Well, I want those classic sounds. Go and buy the bloody plugin or the sample libraries, that you can get for a couple of £100 or whatever. You do not want a Fairlight. It will, when I first turned a Fairlight on in my own studio, I was just like, I'd been cheated on. It was like you never meet your heroes, because I thought, wow, this really is antiquated. I have to unlearn this. What's this thing that I have to use a keyboard to do stuff? No, it's a horrible feeling. There was a few comments I just wanted to make here, or bring out from the chat here. This was one from Eric. Howard Jones. Obviously, Howard, kicked off his career in 83 with his first kind of commercial success, and he was known by being this one-man band stood behind an 808 and a Jupiter 8 and a Pro 1 and a Prodigy I think he had as well, and he managed to get all of this stuff working brilliantly, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was one of the things that really drew me into electronic music, the fact that one man could do all of this with this gear. And of course nowadays it's all laptop based and controllers. However, recently he did a gig, or I don't know if it was one gig or a series of gigs, where he put back his old rig together, and I watched some of the video clips online, and he's saying, he's telling these stories about how it took ages to kind of get it to work, and things would go wrong live, and he'd have to compensate for doing all this stuff. And you think, do you really want that nowadays? I mean, it'd be even worse now with a 40-year-old machine. Let's go to our resident synthesizer expert, who's just been delivered a nice cup of soothing drink to cool his mouth, no doubt.
Yeah. The skin isn't supposed to come off like that,
So look, as probably the preeminent synth restorer, certainly here in the UK, if not the rest of the world, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I know that you often say, God, I wish that people would use the modern version, because it would save me having to shred my fingers and pull my hair out fixing a Rev 2 Prophet 5. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of romance connected to it anyway, let's face it. So, I mean, I remember seeing that thing where you said about Howard Jones, talking about getting all his old gear out again, and, and the Prodigy he's got isn't his original Prodigy. That's in my garage.
Oh, right.
But he doesn't know that.
So
that's his original Prodigy. We actually bought him another one, and then cleaned that one away because his old one was just so far gone, it was ridiculous. Right. So there's a romance and mystery and folklore and everything tied behind the machines, and sometimes that can get in the way of why people want to own any particular machine. You see, so that, for instance, owning the CS80, and eventually I will own one instead of borrowing, but owning the CS80 is one thing, because it's such a beautifully built instrument, and it's like that conversation we had about between a piano isn't proper instrument. You gel with it, and although you can do that with other machines, it's very nuanced, and it's it can change from one person to another, but most people who will play a CS80 really connect with it and enjoy it. So there is that. I mean, gigging with a Fairlight, I know somebody who does gig with a Fairlight, Series 3 in-flight cases, like the one you've got, that one in the garage now, and it's here probably every 12 weeks. For me to go out. It doesn't actually break down, but it likes me to reseat the cards and bits and bobs. But generally speaking, it's okay. But a lot of these machines don't like travelling. Even when they were brand new, they didn't like travelling. So people would have slave and spare machines of anything that they were taken out on stage if they had A, the money, and B, the sense. So I mean, all you've got to do is, look here. I mean, modern.
Nothing vintage
Because
there at
it's-
all. You're the most vintage thing there. In
Yeah,
shop.
absolutely.
Well,
In shop,
what's on the top shelf though?
Ah. Okay. All right,
Sorry, just out
Yeah,
of camera.
Your drum machines are different.
All right. Well, what's to your right shoulder that you keep looking over at?
Right over here.
Yeah, over there.
All right, and here we go.
Go on, show us. Ready? Splurge!
Oh,
There you go.
Ooh,
Now,
now you want to talk about
interestingly
a nightmare to fix.
Yeah.
Well, actually, these are really, really easy to fix, and nearly all the components in these are literally still off the shelf today.
You got to admire that. I'm actually really impressed.
Yeah, it's why Korg didn't bother just like, oh, this is going to be a piece of piss to put one of these back together and do them. But no, you know. But here's the thing, which ties in nicely with the discussion we're having. I brought this upstairs this afternoon so that we could all enjoy the beauty that is analog synthesizer. And this section here, this third synth, has packed up just from carrying it up the stairs. So I've got to take it back in the workshop tomorrow morning, back down the stairs and repair the little bugger. So these two still work, but this one, good night. So, and that's what it's like, and you have to be ready for that. And a lot of people don't think about that side of it when they're buying things. So when you know, I mean, this is going to be shipped to Los Angeles. I've got to take all the cards out and pack them all individually with bubble wrap and put them into little boxes and everything, so they go in the crate, so nothing is going to get damaged.
Yeah.
Because this is all re-veneered. Because this was
Yes, I remember seeing
in a
that.
cellar, yeah, and it got water damaged and all the veneer came off it, so it had to be all completely re-veneered and everything. So it's a lovely machine. Is it worth £70,000?
Well, somebody thinks so.
To somebody, it is.
Somebody thinks so. That's the point.
And that's the point. Now he's willing to try to maintain this thing in the coming future, and good luck to him. I mean, he'll be phoning me up, I suppose, at 3 o'clock in the morning because he's in Los Angeles and doesn't know the Earth is a globe, and be going on about, this isn't working anymore. Can you help me with this? I'm getting no signal coming through on this 4016, and I'll be like, yeah, when I wake up, mate. So, yeah. So, and that's the thing. And then same with old 80 over there, as beautiful as they are. But owning one it's like having a pet. It's a responsibility. You have to treat it as a responsibility.
Yes.
They have to be maintained, serviced, and all of that, all the stuff that comes with that. That said, a lot
Wagyu
of
says,
modern.
Kent, Wagyu says you should replace all of those top hat knobs with severed Barbie doll heads as a surprise.
Yeah. And those little balloons for fake blood.
Yep. Oh, and Yane, that is not a cartridge. That is a connector to the keyboard. That is a gigantic multi-pin connector to a cable that's the size of a horse's leg.
Yeah.
That connects to the keyboard in front.
Yeah.
Yeah. Made by Honda.
Did not know that. But
Don't know why, but there you go.
Yeah.
But even these things will break down anyway. So
Yeah.
it's horses for courses. But at least I didn't have to fork out £70,000 to buy this stuff. So,
But it brings me back to the analogy that I always use with comparing vintage synthesizers with vintage cars, because I think that's probably the easiest one for people to understand. Why would you buy a Ferrari 250 California for £12 million when you can buy a modern day two-seater coupe for maybe £50,000? They will both get you from A to B. They'll be quite fun to drive, but one of them will not be breaking down every few days and require expert attention to get it going again. But the person with the California GT is going to go, yeah, but it's a Ferrari 250, you know, and what are you going to do? I've accepted that that's what I have to do to own this beautiful thing and to use it when I want to use it. And that's just, you know, same with a vintage synthesizer. You know, am I going to use a real CS80, or am I happy with a plug-in or a hardware version of it that's a lot less expensive?
Well, this is why the clones are so important. Yeah, because you know we could argue the toss all night about whether they're accurate or not, but it's not. That's not really the point. The point appears to be that it's giving people who are starting out or haven't got a lot of money an actual chance to get at least the essence of it, you know, and get involved with that kind of sound. If further on, you know, say they get successful and they earn money, and they'll be able to go and buy an original one from somewhere if they wish. But at least with the clones, it's allowing people to get in and sort of experience what it was like, and what all the hassle is, you know, all the fuss is about. So, but yeah, and like you say, with the analogy with classic cars, it's both of those cars are going to be able to get you from A to B comfortably. One of them's a bit of a head turner, and the other one maybe not so much. But even then, some people wouldn't know what it was until you ran them over anyway. So,
well, yeah,
you know.
And Wagyu makes an interesting comment. He talks about the anthropomorphization of the machines and the idea that machines have souls. I've been doing this, you know, way too long. And I've been in and out of this whole idea of, you know, having the machines as tools, having the machines as toys, having the machines as creative partners. And I keep coming back to this. The only thing in any given electronic music studio that really interests me is the person, because people never get boring. People never get old. We were chatting a little bit about, you know, some of Jean-Michel Jarre's albums, like Teo and Teo, which was not really his best work. And just the idea that, you know, ultimately what it comes down to is not which gear is being used, but it's the music. And, you know, I think the person who really gets me, the person who drives me crazy is Poindexter over there, who, you know, he owns a CS80 as a social bludgeon. Mm-hmm. It's not that he may not even know how to play it, you know, but the fact that he has one and the fact that he can point to it and say, look, I've got a real CS80. So all you people with the Deckard's Dreams or the software emulations, you know, you all can go kiss off because, you know, look at me, I've got the real thing. And in my experience, the people who are really good with these machines, the people who really know how to get good music out of them, they're not interested in showing off that they have the original gear. The people who are doing it and who can do the music are doing the music. And, you know, if there's anything that sort of gets my back up these days, it's when you get these vintage electronic music, Berlin School, yada, 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 Poindexter bands that set up all of this gear on stage, and they basically recreate Stratosphere. Yeah. And you're looking at it and you're going, there isn't a lick of originality. There isn't a lick of any new ideas. And, you know, they're strutting around like they own the universe because they spent all this money and they put all this crappy effort into producing, you know, something that has no sense of newness to it. People can take this vintage stuff and do really cool new music with it. They can. It's not, the limitation isn't the gear, the limitation is the person. Yeah. And what drives me absolutely round the bend is when you get a stage full of these people who are doing nothing of interest and an audience full of people who are slack-jawed and drooling over the equipment. It drives me crazy. You know, okay, quick story. Sorry about this. Hampshire Jam, many, many years ago, we had, we were having to hear about this on Usenet. This is, I think, before the web. But people were talking about, all the analog goodness, not a single bit of digital anywhere to spoil anything. And I said, well, what did the venue use as a mixer? Well, it was a Yamaha O2R. Why? And I'm like, dudes, think about what you just said. And boy, the backpedaling. Oh, no, but it's different. I'm sorry, it's not different. The O2R is a great mixer, but it's digital.
Yep.
Everything you heard went through converters.
Yeah.
And, come on, guys. So that's my take. If you're going to do good music, do good music. Yeah. If you're not going to do good music, don't wave your synthetic equivalent of your genitals in people's face. We don't care, or we shouldn't care. That's okay. I'm done.
Well,
off the soapbox.
I had a. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, just very quickly. People are asking what a 250 California looks like. There is a 1960 250 GT with the long wheelbase. That one. And who wouldn't want to turn up in one of those? But equally, you give me a modern day 2-seater that's not going to break down, comes with a 5-year parts and whatever warranty. I think I'd probably take that one instead, because
we've got a 1967. We've got a 1967 MG midget, right? And it is a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
You can't open the bonnet because when you go to pull the bonnet pull, it comes away in your hand like this. Fiona can't get out of it. She has to get out of it on all fours.
Can you take a picture the next time, man?
Hey, now!
She's put it out for sale now.
Oh.
And she's given up and she's going to put it out for sale. And I think she's driven it 4 times.
Oh, wow.
And, this is... And it's the same with people who go out and buy a Synth X and go, it wasn't what I thought it would be, And then, of course, if you buy an iconic instrument, people are suddenly become limited because the first thing they want to do is try and recreate all the music that instrument was famous for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of bleeds into their... creative juices and contaminates it, and the next thing you know, they're not doing anything else than the stuff that's associated with that. And I know this happens because I still do it myself. If I sit down in front of a CS80, I start playing China or whatever and bits and pieces like that and go, right, okay, now let's actually do some music now. And I actually have to get up, walk away and go and play another instrument that doesn't as yet have any connections or paths leading to any style or type of music.
I think that's also one of the downsides of vintage equipment, is that a lot of it has a particular artist or a particular style of music attached to it, and people buy it just to recreate that, rather than some of the people who I've seen who buy vintage gear and just try to do something completely different. I mean, the best example, I guess, is the TB303, because that was originally invented as an accompaniment instrument for guitarists or keyboard players that just wanted something to do the bass patches. And it wasn't until maybe, 82 that came out? So maybe it's 87, 88 that the acid house movement sort of grew up out of kids finding these things tossed away in pawn shops or Goodwill stores or in car boot sales or yard sales, and said, what's this? Oh, it's got knobs. I'm going to twist it. It makes this crazy noise. And what if I put that to a drum beat? Here's a completely new genre of music, because somebody's taken a piece of vintage gear. And, of course, now they become hugely desirable and therefore hugely expensive until another company comes along and creates a version of it. And there are many. So I'm not just singling out one company. There are many reimaginings of that particular instrument.
Well,
but the thing is, with that instrument, every time you use it, everybody starts to go, acid house riffs. They don't use it for, bands like Heaven 17 or Orange Juice that were using it really, cleverly as a bass machine. Sorry, Chris, you were saying.
But yeah, and this is where again it comes back to the player and what your mindset is going to be about it. Why do you have that instrument? a lot of my favorite music has come out of people who had favorite music themselves that they were emulating, but they chose to move forward with it. So, for instance, some of my favorite music is late 60s British rock that was influenced by American Delta blues of the generation or two before them, and then they did something different. Or if you think about, say, the early 90s and the grunge movement, where they took, like think something like the Jazz Master, which was a guitar designed for jazz that totally failed at that. People used it in the 60s for surf rock. In the early 90s, people come along and go, we're going to use it for grunge or shoegaze. Yeah, all that. Yeah, I mean, that comes down to the player of like, what is your imagination for what you can do with this instrument? And there's always people...
Says the guy who's got an absolutely gorgeous fan fret guitar on the wall behind him when most jazz and blues guitarists would go, ugh, heresy!
Yeah, but see, I mean, there's so many places to go with it, and I think, what everybody has said, like, you can get stuck in that loop where you can worship the gear, or you can, be inspired by the sound and the players, and maybe even do something new with it, as so many great musicians have. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with like going and revisiting some of those great sounds and those classic moments of music and go, I'm really influenced by that. In fact, again, my favorite artists are very influenced. Like I can go and I can listen to, Stevie Ray Vaughan and go, wow, I really hear Muddy Waters and Jimi Hendrix in his playing. Both of those guys. And he's doing his own version of them and cloning them, but then he's taking it in a different direction. And so I think, for the analogy stands for any sort of music, synthesis or bass guitar or drums or whatever it is. It all comes again down to the person.
But influence can catch people out anyway. A classic example: I had a guy who had bought a ARP Selena. He really went out of his way to get the ARP version of it, and it was, the usual thing. It was overly priced bucket of bolts. It didn't work and all the rest of it, and he wanted it all done up beautiful. So we done it all up beautiful for him and made it as lovely as it could ever be. He was really, really happy. He come and collected it. We had it up on the bench, and I said, right, do you want to try before you take her? Because it's always a good idea. And he says, oh, yeah. So we started playing it, and he's gone, oh, God, what's wrong with it? I went, nothing, it's absolutely fine. He goes, this is wrong. No, it's not supposed to sound like this. I went,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. He's going, oh, no. And I said, what makes you think it sounds wrong? He says, well, I remember hearing it, and it didn't sound like this. It sounded more like violins. So where did you hear this? And he went, it was the Logical Song by Supertramp. And I watched it on top of the Pops, and he was playing a Selena on top of his Hammond. And I go, you idiot.
Oh, for God's sake.
You idiot. That was a Mellotron. They're not going to stand that on top of a bloody Hammond, are they? So there's the influences, and the influence can lead you into the dog crap.
And this is a perennial problem I find with synth history research, is that so many people are looking, I want that sound that was on this particular record. They reference the top of the Pops performance.
Which was lip-synced anyway. They'd gone into the studio, and the props department says, what do you need? Oh, I need a keyboard. Right, here's a Fender Rhodes, when actually what's on the record is a CS80 or a Jupiter or something.
They go and see Tiny at Hammond Hire, and he brings the gear over.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the guy that I repair Fairlights with, Peter, back in the day was hiring his Fairlights out to the likes of Soul to Soul or Pet Shop Boys, and they were using it on stage there, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was used on the song. It just looked good. Sorry, Mike, I cut you off a bit.
No, it's all right. I'm actually I'm finding something here to show the folks in the audience. Specifically, I'm looking for some information on an instrument that I'm going to show you all. It is not usually in this picture, but I think Cryss would appreciate this. I recently had an instrument made for me, a custom. Most people don't know I play string instruments a little bit. I'm a failed bassist, which is a terrible thing to admit. But I love string instruments, and I have a Schecter A5X over here that I'm fitting with a Gizmotron that I have been using for like 20 years now, that I adore. But recently, as a sort of a treat for finishing this album, I had a custom-made instrument made. And it's got it's a neck through body with Padauk, Granadillo, and maple, and the body is bloodwood and fir. The hand wound pickups with 9,000 turns per pole piece, and custom hardware. Can I show it to you guys?
By all means.
Oh yes.
But I would just like to reiterate, this is the Pro Synth network.
Just for 1 second. I'm making a point here.
Okay, we'll allow this.
Okay, guys, I want you to meet Midge.
Oh, gorgeous.
Ooh.
Yeah, look at that.
Midge has 2 strings.
Nice.
And Midge cost me $178.50. Look at that woodwork. Look at that woodwork. And the electronics, that's just a piece of like chopped aluminum. I mean, the guy who builds these things, it's crappyguitars.com. Okay? K-R-A-P-P-Y. This guy's whole job is, hang on a moment. I seem to have screwed up my
autofocus.
There we go. Perfect. There you go. So Kevin Siebold makes these things. He charges practically nothing for them. They sound great. And his whole thing is, why buy something which is a perfect version of something else when you can build a machine that has, don't click on the, if you got to click on any of those, just watch out for the one with the breasts. That's all I have to say.
Okay, well, we're an adult show. It's almost gone 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Look at me. Look at it. Incredible.
Yeah, and by the way, none of the stuff on that page, I can assure you, cost more than $300.
Wow.
He loves to build. And hockey stick.
Hockey stick.
Oh yeah. With and he does stuff with one. His attitude is, if you're doing punk, you don't need more than 2 strings anyway. And but the thing is, he also makes touch style guitars like the Chapman stick or the War, and his stuff plays amazingly, and it's a quarter the price of everybody else's. Because this is somebody who says, why not do something fun? Why not do something new? Why not do something clever rather than rehashing the same crap over and over and over again? And you've got to admire him. You can buy for $70 in the clearance aisle. He'll sell you a 1-string instrument that's based on a Dean Z body, which is just, I mean, how can you argue with a 1-string Z? Because
I think even I could play a 1-string bass.
Exactly. Anyway, so
Wow.
that was my. I'm sorry for derailing. We can get back to pro synths again. But my point was,
Well, hey,
Cryss.
Let me go from there. So in the guitar world, and this is going towards synthesizer. I'm going to make the transition here. In the guitar world, like customization is a big thing, especially with guitars like Strats and Tellys, like where you swap everything out, you change the pick guard, you change the pickups, you rewire it the way you want it, you swap the neck, whatever, I think Clapton's Blackie or something, or Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstein. What analogy is there to the synth world as far as people's like preferences and identity wrapped up in their instrument? Because there's not a lot of customization that goes on with your vintage Jupiter or your Mini Moog or whatever.
And
well, I've got a Jupiter 8 downstairs that was owned by Hawkwind, and they hand painted a mural all over it, and it's actually worth a lot of money because of that, weirdly. So yeah, customizations happen a lot.
Oh yeah,
quite a lot.
Well, I
So
mean,
cosmetic though, right? That Zathan says
not necessarily. I mean, Steve Hillage's Strat sounds the way it does because he sanded off all of the finish. you know?
Oh yeah. In the guitar world, but what about the synth world as far as those kind of customizations?
Well,
'Cause I just
mean,
haven't seen it with guys that I've gigged with.
Well, I
What do you
see
mean,
a lot of
changing-
I see a lot of customizations. They don't necessarily affect the sound, but sometimes they do in weird ways. I had a guy who had a Corgam S10 where he ripped the keyboard out, and he ripped out the button and the wheel and made it into he attached them to a plank of wood and put a strap on it, so he had a keytar, and he ran the cable back into the thing, and the thing always had this incredibly weird extra something that other MS10s didn't have, and it took him forever to figure out that the problem was he basically with that cable created a giant antenna. And so he was blending it. He was blending in RFI with all of his timbres, and that got to be his sound. So you never really know.
So I
Well,
wonder.
I gigged with a Prodigy that I actually cut in half. Mm-hmm. So I had the keyboard separately, and then you could have the main unit sitting up out of the way.
Yep.
Well, Steve Picara was telling us about his Mini Moog that fell off the stage and then ended up in two parts.
And actually, Emerson had one. They have that on display at EMIAP. Emerson actually had one built with a remote keyboard.
Right.
He had it designed in two pieces. So you know.
Well,
So,
funny enough, tying into last week, you brought up something, Mick, which was about this thing. Let me see if I can get it. Mind that doggo. Siri, mind your bum. Good girl, mind your bum. There was 4 dogs in here earlier. It was ridiculous.
That's not ridiculous. That's heaven.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Yeah, the thing is, they're all after the chili, and I couldn't give them any of it. Right.
Oh, come on. That would have been funny as hell.
Oh, yeah, it would have been. Right. Let's see if I can get
Sorry.
By the way, Anaglyph t-shirts are available from kentspong.com.
Yeah.
Anaglyph
So,
t-shirts.
Well,
Worth it.
Ken-
I love it.
Here you go.
While Ken is doing that,
Oh,
when-
look at that.
Oh, hello, darling. Oh, look
Right,
at
now.
you.
How many
I can
people
show
can just
you.
reach behind their desk and
Yeah,
grab
I know.
a liberation?
Right.
Hey, this
now,
old thing.
Now, the thing is, what you got to remember about this, what you said about putting it in the case.
Yeah, everything
You
is.
see,
in
you see that base there?
Yep.
That's the length of the circuit board. There's no way you're getting
Unbelievable.
it. Yeah, you won't get that in a 19-inch.
Yeah, but you could still put it in an external box.
Well, what appears to be, it appears to be the case that's the weight.
Oh God, and all
If
you
put
need to
this
do
into
is
fiberglass, it'll weigh nothing.
yeah, exactly. Do 3D print one in carbon fiber,
Yeah.
and it'd probably be sturdier anyway.
And and the thing is, it's only a Moog Prodigy.
Is
with
it?
the trimmers put on? Yes,
well,
it's
I
a
thought
Moog
it
Prodigy.
was. I thought it was more of a Rogue.
Well, the board appears to be a Prodigy board, but then there's not a lot of difference between the Prodigy and the Rogue.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's
And-
very similar to
And it's of course it's got the poly
Good
thing
night.
from the love that Dryzabone, by the way.
Yeah.
Loves the it's got some stuff of course from the MG1. The guy who did Tandy's side of the work on the MG1, Paul Schreiber, is a friend of mine, and he was my I don't know what's going to happen. He was my guy for checking a lot of the tech stuff for that part of the book. And I'm hoping that, the fact that he wasn't a Moog guy doesn't result in people saying, well, if he wasn't actually the Moog guy working on this, I love August Worley, and I'm really hoping that August doesn't come after me with a pickaxe because I wasn't able to talk to him for the book, and that's on me. Anyway. But yeah, they're great machines, and but you customize the hell out of them. That's just what you do,
It's like this thing with there was 3. Is it 3 different models of the? No, it's 5 different models of the ARP 2600.
Oh yeah.
And there was one Tolex ARP 2600 that is actually physically smaller than the. I think it was. I can't remember where it came in the chain.
But
The
yeah,
front panel's actually thinner.
there are like 9 revs, and they
So
were.
as many as that now.
Oh yeah, because you had the blue Meanie, you had the blue Marvin, you had the gray Meanie, you had the 3 or 4 in the gray, 4 or 5 versions with different electronics in the gray, and then you had 2 or 3 in the black and orange. but they're all under the hood.
True.
Technically, they're all the same machine, but they all have these differences. And again, you get back to that whole thing of I sing, thank you very much. And I don't know, I'd love to talk with you guys as long as you want, but eventually they're going to have to pull the plug on me. Keep in mind that these guys, it's getting late. For me, it's lunchtime, and the longer I'm here talking to y'all, the less I'm going to overeat and pass out in diabetic coma. But yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody thinks they know what this stuff sounds like, right, guys? Everybody thinks they knows what this stuff sounds like, and it's not just old instruments. It's me, Cryss. I would love someday to hear what that Moog 1 you have can really do, because I've had no direct experience with one, and all I'm going on is anecdotal evidence from people who have had good and bad experiences with it. I'd love to actually hear you play it, you know? And that sequential you've got over your shoulder there, Kent, I've never heard it. I'd love to learn more about it. But it's this kind of thing. Everybody's got their own experiences, and everybody, it's like, I don't know, what do they call it now? It used to have a really politically, telephone. The game of telephone, right? Somebody said that this sounded like that because they saw it over here on this picture that a friend's girlfriend got when they were backstage talking to the band that opened for, and all of a sudden it's gospel. Yeah. And, sure, fine.
Like when I told that story about Keith Emerson's GX1. Because that's written in a book, that's what happened.
Yep.
Except it wasn't. But, but there's loads of it. It's the same with all these different kind of things with, people think that somebody used a particular machine on something and own that machine because of it, and then they find out that it didn't use that machine at all.
Yeah, well, it happens a lot, doesn't it? If you think about sampling, which is, obviously my kind of area of somewhat expertise, the sampling world in the early 1980s was not regulated by any form of law. It was hugely incestuous. Producers, I spoke to Steve Levine about this at Synthfest a few years ago, and he said we would have like producer get-togethers, and we'd like, I really like the sound you used on that one, Trevor. Well, that's okay, Steve. If you want me to sample that into an emulator for you, I'll do that from my Fairlight. And Steve would say, oh, excellent. And Trevor would say, oh, I love that sound you used on Culture Club or whatever. Oh, that was the Fairlight. Oh, could you sample that for me into my Synclavier? And everyone was swapping stuff around.
And I talk about that in the book.
Yeah.
I talk about that in the book. EMU used to sponsor these emulator parties.
Yes, they have. It was like wife swapping, wasn't it? They'd all throw their discs into the middle of the table.
Well, and interestingly, one of the things that didn't get into this book, because one of the ones that didn't make Volume 1 was the Synclavier. Was the Synclavier. There's actually the first official documented case of unwanted sample piracy happened on the Synclavier, because, and this is a great story. I got this from an interview from many years ago with Buffy St. Marie, who, if you're not familiar with her, she's an extraordinary musician, and she's hugely tech forward. She was doing stuff with synths back when girls didn't do that kind of thing, and she's genius, and she's really good at it. And she actually she had one of the original Synclaviers with a Winchester hard disk, the thing that held 650 whole megabytes and was the size of a fridge. And she created this gigantic library of her own voice being layered and processed, called Cenivox. And the Cenivox library was something that she was really proud of. And when her Winchester disc failed, she shipped it back to New England Digital. And in the process of fixing the disc, somebody pulled the data off of it and started giving it to other people who bought Synclaviers.
Yep.
And so she started hearing her own vocals on other people's albums, and so she has gone down in history as being the first victim of sample piracy.
And that was a very common practice at Fairlight as well, because people would people would voluntarily send their sounds in on discs, on floppy disks, saying, hey, look, I came up with this fantastic thing. And it would just make its way into the factory library, and then each revision of the factory library had some stuff that was put in there, and some of it, I guess if it had happened nowadays, would have been significantly litigious. It's just very commonplace. But of course, as, to Kent's point about mistakes being made about attribution of instruments to various songs or things. Once sampling came in, all of that stuff went out the window. It could have been anything at any time on any record.
Absolutely.
And it's just, there's a very famous sound that comes out of the DX7. I also want to point out here, you said to Cryss,
everybody drink.
I said you said to Cryss you'd like to hear him play his Moog 1. You said to Kent you'd like him to play the thing over his shoulder. What about what's over my shoulder? Would you like to hear a DX7?
I know what they sound like.
Okay. Yeah, don't say doorbells.
No, we spoke about this, didn't we? Saying
we did.
About when FM come out, it was everywhere.
It was.
Everybody was using it, and it kind of burnt it out.
Well, there's a very famous patch that is attributed to a lot of time to Depeche Mode, and it's on an emulator sample library. It's on. I think it was on one of the Universe of Sounds, one of the North Star stuff, I think. And it's called, what's it called? Oh, Strato something or other. It's a DX7. It's a DX7 patch called Strato DX. And it's supposed to be a plucked Stratocaster string sound. And it was sampled into an emulator, and it's all over Depeche Mode stuff. And it's attributed to emulators. But, after you do a little bit of kind of backwards research, and you find that was a patch in 1983 or something that was a DX7 patch. It was just sampled.
Yep.
And just
people,
made.
And you know what? The other thing is that people, if they don't have a lot of a technological background or they don't have a lot of technological vocabulary, they may focus on a particular type of gear or type of product without realizing that what really interests them is the effect that's being gotten. For instance, No. I forgot. It's not wired up at the moment, but I was going to go. I heard you on the wireless back in 52.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that that's a very specific kind. Everybody thinks that's a very specific kind of gear or whatever, but all it really is just a very band-limited vocal process, what we used to call the telephone voice. And in fact, by the way, if you ever really want telephone voice, Placid Audio, the people who make the Copper Phone Mini, also make a carbon button microphone using an element from a Soviet tank, I think, called the carbon phone. And if you really want to sound like a telephone, you can. And it's the only mic in the world where they actually tell you in the manual, if it sounds funny, hit it a few times to loosen up the carbon granules. So, percussive maintenance is actually in the manual. But it's that whole idea of, I need to have this mic through that thing to that thing to that thing. And honestly, I don't know how Trevor Horn got that sound on Video Killed the Radio Star, but he probably phoned it in. Sorry.
Yeah, very fun. I'm never wanting to miss the chance to get some FM stuff on him. I think was it Zaffin? Mark Zaffin asked he wanted to hear that sound. So here it is on the DX5. Okay, this is that sound.
Oh, but that's not authentic.
Oh, it is.
DX5. If it's DX5, you got to do it on a 7. Oh, well, that's every Tangerine Dream album between 1984 and 1989.
But that particular patch. That sound.
It's not the clitoris patch, is it?
It's not the clitoris patch. No.
Is that the electric piano?
No, that's the Strato DX.
No, the clitoris patch is the electric piano, isn't it?
Yeah, the clitoris patch is the electric piano patch.
That's called Strato.
That's called Strato DX.
Oh yeah, it sounds like they're trying to make the sound of a Strat on a second position, like bridge and middle pickup together. Very much. It was. And it got sampled into.
You'd think this. You look at it and you go, "My God, this must sound incredible," and it's a string synth with tits. That's all. It really is just a string synth. It gives the impression of a string synth. And that's all it is.
Matt, it can't be the clitoris patch. He found it.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
My secret is out.
Oh God, I love this program so much. Anyway,
We've officially gone after hours.
Yeah, sorry, I just love that DX5. I love as soon as I turn it on, I can't keep my hands off it.
and you know what, Rob? Seriously, they're great machines. They really are.
yeah.
Their problem is they were beaten to death.
Yeah.
And they were beaten to death, and they were used for things that they were never designed to be used for.
Yeah. Ooh, what's that?
Ooh.
Ooh. I thought that was me feeding back. It's you.
No, that's
Spong.
the Korg.
Yeah, how wonderful that sounds. That's 70 grand all day.
And it comes out of one speaker as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's mono. Come on, you need if you want.
So's that. So's the DX5.
Yeah, but you were running it through a bunch of
Oh yeah.
stereo effects. You know,
See if
everything
we
sounds
make it
better.
sound even. It must be able to do something else.
Well, it has such weight to the sound. Doesn't kind of make you want to go?
Ooh,
Oh, now we get.
I like that.
Ooh, you know, and all the Poindexters down in the front row are like, he turned the knob. Yeah. He turned the knob.
That actually sounds really nice.
Hey, turn your camera while you're doing that. We want to see.
Camera on Kent.
Oh wow, look at that book. I like the book.
Yeah, look. At your local bookstore. Out now.
Help me feed my family.
Yeah. See what I mean?
Well, and the fact that you can, the fact that it uses.
Yeah.
Now
right
there. Now we're getting into something.
Yes.
Slide that one.
Or maybe not.
Let's put it on square.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, these things use they actually have individual oscillator articulation for every key, all 48 keys. But the oscillators themselves are a top octave network, and that's why you can do things like create different temperaments. You don't have to play only an equal temperament because those knobs along the bottom allow you to set what the actual pitch of the C, C sharp, D, D sharp, etc.
Yeah, so you have each one for each key.
Yep.
I can't tell right now. Is it the 70s or the 80s? You keep going back and forth.
It's the ProSynth Network time machine.
Well,
Sorry.
just be glad I didn't turn on my micro freak.
Yeah, we should all do something.
Yeah, just like, oh, yeah. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. With lag and everything. Yeah, baby.
Whilst Kent's here we go. Oh, here we go.
I've got to do that at least once
You've
a
got
day.
to do.
You know, Ken, you want me? I've got mine right here.
Yeah, I know.
Same patch. It's just like,
Because I noticed last week your screensaver had synchronised with my one.
yeah.
It's just come across.
Yeah, but yeah, I gotta love that. And again, there's another example. Oh, that's the Blade Runner sound.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that you're getting it out of a $1,300, Taiwanese / American designed synthesizer that has nothing to do with Yamaha or the CS80. You know, if you're hitting the right notes, if you're feeling it, you know, and the fact that you've got a ribbon controller and poly aftertouch doesn't hurt. Yeah. You know, you're getting the music in there. You're making people feel something, and it doesn't have to be with the original gear. There are lots of reasons to really enjoy and treasure a Yamaha CS80, but if you're trying to get a musical idea across, there are ways to do it for less money. And I think that ultimately is just what this comes back down to. People who want to own, and easier. People who want to own the vintage stuff should, and they should enjoy it. But oh, Wagyu, come on.
What's he saying?
So Wagyu talks big for being a guy that plays plastic tubes in his guitar amp. His Kemper.
Ooh, shots fired.
Them's fighting words.
But hey, for £10, he can insult it all he wants. I'm okay.
Can I just want to put this up before I forget to do it and we run out of time. I've been contacted during the show by our friend Craig Aspin of sweetdiscrete.co.uk. You might remember he's the guy behind these new replacement membranes that he's producing for...
Oh, yeah, those beautiful front panels.
Yeah, so for the DX7, the KX88, and others, JX3P or
Rhodes
8P, I can't
Chroma.
remember. Yeah, Rhodes Chroma. But one of the things that Kent said a while back, if he did one of those for the Oberheim Matrix-12, I'd be happy as a pig in the proverbial. Well, guess what, Kent?
Go on.
Oh, did he?
Oh, piss off.
Wow.
Okay,
That's phenomenal.
So he's going to do this, but he does need 30 orders minimum to make it financially viable. So £199.
Put the word out, because the
this
whole
is what we
problem,
do.
I was terrified that I was starting to get electronic problems with my expander because the buttons were sticking, and the buttons were sticking because those overlays shrink.
Yeah.
And they start trapping the edges of the buttons so they don't click properly. And having something like that for the 12 or the expander would just be a wonderful, wonderful thing. That's beautiful. That's awesome. I approve.
On those original panels, you see we got the green for the displays.
Yep.
That's lacquer.
Yeah.
Green lacquer.
You mentioned
and
that.
And I found out the hard way. And
oh dear.
Yeah, but unfortunately on the inside. But because they do the ghosting where they start going all white, where the textured layer starts coming away from the backing.
Yeah.
But
that was
I got a guy building one. I got a guy making a panel already. I sent the panel over to LA to Robert Rosen, who took it to a guy who said he was going to do a one-off panel for us. And then this happened, and I was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't have sent it."
Even if your synth does, I would actually get one as wall art.
Yeah.
I might actually get one as wall art. That would be really funny. And hang it on an unavailable wall. No, that's
We'll get the whole synth and nail it to the wall.
Yeah, well, I had one for a long time. That was another example. It got to the point where I had it for 34 years, Kent. It was my main machine from 1985 until 2019. And then one day I looked at it in the studio and I said, I'm afraid to turn you on because I'm afraid something's going to break.
Yeah.
And when you have a synthesizer that you've loved so much, but you won't turn it on because you're afraid of what's going to happen to it, it's time to give it a new home. So I Marie Kondoed it and I sent it off to a young man in the Bay Area who's keeping it in good trim, who's playing it a lot and loving on it. And that's just, and now if I want, I don't really miss expander sounds all that much because I used the hell out of them for 30 odd years, and now I'm on to other things. But it's just the whole thing. Again, you come back to the music.
We're having influence. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. By popular request from ProSynth Network.
See?
Shouldn't that be by request from the popular ProSynth Network?
Shoot these people front. So I needed to get that in there because Craig is doing an amazing job. Craig's also opening a studio in a converted church. I am incredibly envious and equally thrilled to see how that's going to come about. We need to get him on the show. Yeah. He's doing some amazing stuff. Don't just believe me. Speak to Dominic, Mr. Wiggly. He's got one of the KX88 panels that he did on his. I don't need to do mine yet, but I've got one in the box just in case. So, doing some great stuff.
They look beautiful.
Yeah, they are amazing. They're so well made. So there you go. That's Sweet Discrete doing those. And of course, if you want to go and check those out, it's sweetdiscrete.co.uk, and then you just find the online services and membranes panel. It's there actually on the front page now. Expander Bank is coming soon as well. That's
See,
one.
I'd get one of those as wall art because the expander was always my baby. I never had a 12. But the expander was I had two expanders actually for a while, Thing 1 and Thing 2. and that was overkill.
But yeah, so certainly go and check those guys out. Or check that guy, Craig. He's doing some stellar work.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
I guess we've kind of come to a kind of a natural conclusion there that yes, you should bin the vintage if all you're after is convenience and sound. But if, like myself and others amongst us here, you appreciate the old stuff and appreciate that it is going to go wrong and it will cost you some money to keep going, but you love the instrument,
then enjoy it. Absolutely.
Buy it and enjoy it. Turn it on. You might only turn it on once a week, but turn it on and play it.
And that's the point. It's the joy. If it makes you happy, do it. Because
exactly.
let's look around at this world. We don't have enough making us happy. So make yourself happy.
This is very true. It's very true. I mean, I have to say, when it comes to that DX5, every time I turn it on, I just can't take myself away from it. As soon as we finish here,
and that's what you want.
Yeah,
and that's what you want.
Exactly.
You want a machine. You don't. That's why I sold my Matrix Brood. An amazing machine. Arturia just outdid themselves with it. Wonderful stuff. But every time I looked at it, it wasn't inviting me. It was challenging me. It wasn't saying, "Hey, let's make some music together." It was saying, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah.
And
see, I find the opposite with the Polybrew. I think it does drag me in.
Exactly. And and that's why I'm intrigued. But I don't exactly have $3,000 to throw around right now. No.
Yeah.
Well, my Rolly Rise will drag me in as well.
Yes.
But then after a while, you just get, it just. So end up put the best piano library in the world, which is the Alicia Keys one on in the Contact library.
Oh, is that good?
It's stunning. It's a brilliant piano.
See, there's something we could talk about for ages because
Alicia Keys.
well, yeah, but no, I was saying the whole idea of modeled pianos versus samples. I'm a piano tech guy to the death, and so that's another topic.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you just you get those sounds, and you just they make you want to play, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So get that.
And by the way,
Fire up the 18, I'm gone, mate.
Yeah, and by the way, that's the punchline for our other discussion of the day. Computers as musical instruments. If it makes you happy, it all comes back to the person in the music. If it makes you happy, go for it. There.
Yeah.
I'm done. We'll have to come up with something for next time.
We'll do that one next time. Absolutely. Guys, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic. I think our audience has really enjoyed this as well, which is, of course, the only reason we really want to do this, apart from just nerding out with like-minded individuals. It's great.
Well, they got to see a Liberation. So.
Yeah, I mean, what other shows? You get Liberations and PS3300s and two-string guitars.
Big-breasted string synths.
Yeah.
You get everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pole dancing 80s.
Yeah, and a DX5 to boot.
All singing, all dancing.
Indeed. Listen, thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Anytime, man. Just ask.
Absolutely. You're always at the end of my email.
And folks, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies.
Tell everyone. Yeah.
Tell
Thank
everyone.
you. Yeah, please do. Let's just remind everyone who we got coming up in the next few weeks. It's difficult to follow great guests like this, but we are trying our very best. So everybody get a drink ready, because next week we've got some of the guys, or one of the guys, Thomas Gerbrands from CME, along with an artist that I believe Thomas also does management for, but is also a big proponent of WIDI. And we're going to be talking all things WIDI. So if you have questions about WIDI and its use in modern studios today, whether it's in a studio environment or a live environment, then please do get in touch during the show. Throw your questions if you have issues with latency, or how can you control multiple instruments at once through some of these things. Just join in the chat and let us know, and we'll talk about all things WIDI, Bluetooth MIDI, and some of the other projects that they've got coming up. And then the following week, we've got this chap, Mark Zaffin.
Zaff.
Always likes to have an opinion and backs it up with research. And we're going to have him on to discuss all things synthesizer and maybe things to do with vlogging in the modern age, about technology and some of the japes and the scrapes that he's got himself into and out of as well. So that'll be hugely interesting to chat with Mark. Following that, on I think is December 10th, this beautiful lady, Lisa Belladonna, is making a return appearance on our show. We cannot wait to have her back.
Amazing talent.
Yeah, she's just doing some amazing stuff, as per usual. She's actually going to be our final show guest of the year because we go out on a Friday. It then coincides with Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and we all kind of have, families and obligations. But we were hoping to do some pre-recorded material that we will premiere on the usual show times on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. It might not be a full 2-hour thing. It might just be something short. I've got some ideas that I'm going to run by the guys, and we need to do something there. But we'll have some content, and then we're
just let me borrow the stream for a couple of hours.
And then next year we've got a whole bunch of people that we're talking to for guests, so we're not going to stop. This is going to carry on and on and on and on. And of course Kent will be back at some point. Just trying to think, because you would normally be on the third Friday of the month, which would be effectively
the 17th.
Yeah, is it the 17th? I can't remember. Let me just double check my dates here. I want to make sure I've got all my dates right. Lisa's on the 10th. Oh yeah, we do have Kent on the 17th. What I'm saying, yes, we do have Kent on the 17th. But we were also trying to get Dan from Rhodes, weren't we? Rhodes Music to come and talk about the new Mark 8. So I know they've been busy as hell. So he did apologise that he's taking a while to get back. So fingers crossed we'll have Dan from Rhodes. So again, if you have any questions about the Rhodes, stick that into your diaries. But we'll be announcing all of the shows as and when on the Facebook page, or also on the Instagram page and the Twitter page. The handle across all of those is @ProSynth Network, so you can't go wrong. Thank you all to everyone that's been in the chat room, has contributed to the conversation, has inputted with some hilarity and some interesting insight, and of course to everyone that's donated through the super chats and super stickers. I don't get what they are. It just means that we get a little bit of cash that keeps us going. And thank you. It's hugely appreciated. We don't do this for anything other than just the love of doing it. And of course, one final plug, because he's on the show, and I'd be remiss.
Shucky darns.
Go out and buy this, or if you have a loved one, there you go. Kent's got one too. Get this book. You need this book. You really, really. Oh, there we go. Cryss.
I'm waiting to see if I have a loved one.
Oh, okay. Right, there you go. So it's available, Bukes.com. And you can pick one up for, I think, was it 52 British pounds? And
it's $69.95 American dollars.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's not a huge amount of money. I'm sure your respective partners or family members will buy you one of those and find a suitably large stocking to put it at the end of your bed on December 24th.
Yeah, but make sure it's made out of Lycra, because otherwise it'll rip right through.
Is true.
The thing is heavy.
It's such a lovely, lovely thing.
Anyway,
I suggest getting a stand like Kit has for the book. You should be able to
Kent's
pick up
got
one
a
of those
stand.
pretty cheap, right?
Yeah. How much was that stand, Kit?
70,000 pounds.
The stand that you had? No, the stand for
you had the book on.
Oh yeah. These are available at all good scam stores.
Awesome.
And they are 180,000 now. I've decided.
Wow.
There you go.
Arbitrary figure.
Cheap at a tenth the price.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's wood and everything.
Guys, thank you so much for having me back
No,
on
thank
here.
you for
I
coming
always
back.
have
Mike.
so much fun. And definitely, anytime you guys need to fill a break, I'm happy to come back and drive everybody absolutely batshit.
You're on the list. You're on the list. No, it's brilliant. No, thank you for coming back, and the audience love you. We love you. So we will definitely have you back on the show.
So much
many
love.
times.
So much love.
Kent, more Anaglyph work coming soon. Yes.
Yes. Fiona pointed out something to me that I'd completely forgotten about. She found some of the paperwork that I'd done originally back in 2016, and I'd forgotten about how the voice cards are mounted in the Anaglyph. They're done in a circle. It's 2 circles, bank 1 and bank 2.
Right.
And then they're covered in perspex, and they are lit. So on the back of the synth, I'd forgotten all about the whole lighting display that the synth does on the back. It's got to be as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside.
That's gonna.
So that's going to push the price up.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ty.
Yeah. Oh well.
He can afford it.
Cryss, anything coming up this coming week for you?
Yeah, well, this coming Friday I'll be gone, but the good news will be Ben will be back, and we've definitely missed him. But I'll be doing Thanksgiving with the in-laws, so...
Of course, it's Thanksgiving next week for all you...
Christmas one.
Yeah, for all you ungrateful colonials.
God help us.
Happy Thanksgiving for
this. This is probably
going
to be the last Thanksgiving meal we do outside of family. We're Mrs. Spiral and I are just so effing done. Just done.
We only have the one Christmas and it's enough.
Well, there's this Chinese buffet down the road, and on Thanksgiving they put out turkey and stuffing and everything along with the moo gai pan and the lo mein. So you go and you get a little of everything, you know. Yeah, baby. You know, kung pao chicken with cranberry sauce.
Yeah. My wedding breakfast, as they call it, isn't it? The meal that you have after you get married. Was it a Chinese restaurant?
Oh, I can't argue with that.
The
rehearsal dinner for one of my best friends was he had it at a Chinese restaurant, and the bride's family had never had Chinese food before, and so you got to hear the mother of the bride poking at her plate and going, "Oh, what I would give for just a couple of Chick-fil-A's. God damn."
Anyway, and Mike, you're writing books again.
Well, I'm busy, but the one thing I would like to get a plug in for, if anybody's at all curious, is Radio Spiral, which is our online radio station. It's an interactive thing. We have people in the community all over the world. I know that folks in the UK have a little bit of trouble with some of the programming because it's very late at night. We're on 6 p.m. We're 24/7 at radiospiral.net, but our actual programming is Sunday through Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and we have people playing live actually on the air, not just spinning tunes, but also, you know, they'll drop everything and say, you know what, I think it's time for me to play some music, and we'll play. Like last night I played for about an hour. And then every other Saturday we have a gentleman in London who comes on at 3 Pacific, which would be 10 p.m. I guess UK time, who plays 2 hours live. This amazing musician who does something every other Saturday. I think it's next Saturday is the next one. Anyway, but it's interactive. We have a Discord channel. We have Second Life presence if you want to jump on your avatar and make a fool of yourself like I do. One of these days I'm going to do one of these shows and I'm just going to put up a picture of my avatar and everybody's going to be like, okay, what the actual is that? But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Radiospiral.net. Come in, join the group. We're glad to have you.
Cool
But
stuff.
even the times are cool in America, aren't they? Where you can say 3 Pacific. Like that. We can't go like 4:15 Irish channel.
Irish channel.
Yeah. 7:30 North Sea.
North Sea.
Locally 6 to 7, locally 8. Showers at first. Good.
I'm going to be fixing fairlights this weekend.
VCAs.
In readiness for this, yes, VCAs no less. Just a final plug. A week on Saturday.
It should be so much fun, Rob. I wish I could be there, man.
So yeah, please come along. There's going to be me trying to demonstrate a fairlight with my sausage fingers. And hopefully Robin will step up and play some stuff on there. But there's a whole day of events, but yeah, prepping for that this weekend. So that'll be fun.
We'll bring a mic with you. Because if it fails, you're going to have to go
boom, boom. Yeah, do all of that stuff. Brilliant, guys. Thank you ever so much for your company.
I was trying to join him, and it's just like, what comes next? Dun 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 dun.
That's it.
Get up.
Yeah. We need to get JJ back on as well. I spoke to him the other day, and he's up for it. So yeah, we'll see if we get him to do a...
That's still the most viewed video, isn't it?
It's one of
the most viewed video.
Yeah, that and
it's up,
Steve.
something in the 1Ks, yeah.
Yeah. Lisa always does well. Mick McNeil always good to have on.
Oh, Lisa's on my birthday.
But hey,
so I can have me Dunkin' Donuts and coffee and watch the show.
Lovely stuff. Nice one. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for joining. Thanks to everyone that's been watching. If you're watching on catch up, thank you for coming back, because you don't have to, but we love that you do. And do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy your weekends wherever you may be.
Everybody stay safe and well.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you all same time, same place next week, where we're going to be joined by the guys from CME. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
One last drink. Weedy.
Weedy. Bye.
Bye, guys.